Chapter 717. The 30,000 Black Vulture Army didn't look as amazing as the 100,000 before, but they still covered the sky and the sun as they flew across the vast sea. At this time, the leaders of the central continent were having a secret meeting. When they heard that the Black Vulture Army had invaded the central continent again, they immediately congratulated each other. Well, the most difficult time is over. Now Yang Dingtian and the Vulture Palace are fighting. Good fight, now we're safe. Nangong Langia said loudly. Does that mean that Yang Dingtian will make a big concession in the negotiation? A leader of the central continent laughed. Negotiation? No, let's not talk about it. Nangong Langia said. The Vulture Palace and Yang Dingtian are fighting. It's hard to say who will win. Let's wait and see first. Maybe in the future, Yang Dingtian will take the initiative to come to us. Then another voice whispered. Maybe the Vulture Palace can do what Wu Yuming can't. So, not only do we not have to talk, but we can also take over the entire central continent. That's right. It's best if Yang Dingtian is defeated and retreats to the west continent, so that we can take over the entire central continent. What do you mean we can take over the entire central continent? The central continent was originally ours. Who does Yang Dingtian think he is? What right does he have to take over the place? Go back to where you came from. Who do you think will win this aerial battle? Of course Yang Dingtian will be defeated. At present, the Black Vulture Army is unbeatable. Even if Yang Dingtian sacrificed all the Demon Vulture Army, he could only kill 10,000 Black Vulture Army at most. And the Vulture Palace has more than 100,000 Black Vultures in the South Central Continent. So Yang Dingtian will definitely lose this aerial battle. It's very likely that his army will be wiped out. In this way, the Council of Light will be disgraced. That's right. That's why we have to destroy their spirit. Otherwise, after Yang Dingtian defeats Wu Yuming in the duel, the Council of Light will instantly assume that they are number one in the world, and those who obey them will prosper, and those who oppose them will perish. At this time the Black Vulture Corps was not stopped. They rushed directly into the central continent for a full 500 miles before they encountered the special forces of the Demon Vulture Corps, who came to intercept them. Ling Chuzi and the other experts of the Vulture Palace couldn't help but sneer when they saw that there were only 1,000 Demon Vulture Army soldiers led by Song Chunhua and Kuei Qing. Was Yang Dingtian crazy? He had 1,000 Demon Vultures block 30,000 Black Vultures, and had Song Chunhua take command. Of course, with that being the case, Ling Chuzi would definitely not use his martial abilities. As such, he would naturally not attack Song Chunhua. Furthermore, the experts of the Council of Light were currently 100 miles away from the army. If Ling Chuzi were to use his martial arts, the experts of the Council of Light would instantly appear. Rush up and tear apart the Demon Vulture Corps in front. Ling Chuzi ordered lightly. Suddenly, 30,000 Black Vultures whizzed out in a dark mass, wanting to completely crush the 1,000 Demon Vulture Corps. At this time, the Demon Vulture Corps in front of them formed a long array in the air. There were a total of 5 rows, with 200 Demon Vultures in each row. From top to bottom, they formed a square formation to meet the Black Vulture Corps. 30,000 Black Vultures neatly formed a three-dimensional formation in the air and flew fiercely. They still blotted out the sky and the sun, and it was still a one-sided scene. The dukes of the central continent, who came to watch the battle, were extremely excited. They almost shouted in a low voice, "Kill the Demon Vulture Corps! Kill the Demon Vulture Corps! Let Yang Dingtian's Demon Vulture Corps be completely annihilated. Let the Council of Light have no air force to use." The 30,000 Black Vulture Corps were getting closer and closer. 100 miles, 50 miles, 30 miles, 25 miles. However, the Demon Vulture Corps did not move. Whether it was the Black Vulture Corps or the Central Continent forces, who were secretly watching the battle on the ground, they couldn't help but be shocked. Was the Demon Vulture Corps still seeking death this time? When the distance was still 20 miles, the warriors of the Demon Vulture Corps suddenly carried a long iron tube with a diameter of 5 kilograms on their shoulders. A Demon Vulture warrior behind them took out a small crystal missile of about 200 kilograms from a big box. There was a faint phoenix painted on it, indicating that this was a special phoenix missile. Of course, this time there were only more than 700 of them. One was not enough for each person. Therefore, among the 1,000 Demon Vulture Corps, there were only 200 Phoenix-level missiles in the first wave of attack. The rest were all ordinary fire-level crystal missiles. The warriors behind loaded the missiles into the launchers one after another. "Everyone aim," Song Chunhua ordered loudly. Instantly, the 1,000 warriors all aimed at the black mass of the Black Vulture army that was coming at them. Seeing these iron tubes, everyone was stunned. Not only Ling Chuzi, but also the people watching the battle on the ground. Was the Council of Light crazy? They actually used iron tubes to fight. Were they looking for death? At this time, they still didn't use the small crystal crossbows? At this time, the Black Vulture Corps was getting closer and closer, and it began to form a semicircular formation to surround the 1,000 Demon Vulture Corps. The secret weapon of the Council of Light was only met with harsh ridicule at the first moment. Even the warriors of the Black Vulture Corps were extremely disdainful. The Black Vulture Corps was 10 miles away. 9 miles. 8 miles. Ignite fire, Song Chunhua ordered. Suddenly, the Demon Vulture warrior behind carefully took out a small energy box. Inside it floated the bright red liquid bloody black gold. The temperature here was tens of thousands of degrees, or even higher. Then, the liquid bloody black gold directly ignited the crystal power array at the tail of the missile. Suddenly, whoosh 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 whoosh, 1,000 missiles whistled out in an instant, dragging a long tail like a meteor. And 200 of them were extremely fast. That's right. The speed of this small missile was faster and more astonishing than the large missile. The previous large missiles needed to fly too far, so they didn't dare to burn too many special crystals per unit of time. So in terms of speed, they could only take a balance value. But now, these small missiles only needed to fly a few dozen miles. Therefore, the warlocks increased the crystal power per unit of time, so the flying speed was astonishingly fast. The initial speed could reach tens of meters per second, and the highest speed in the middle could even reach more than twice the speed of sound. In short, these small crystal-powered missiles were much more outstanding than the large missiles in terms of speed. The rocket projectiles on Earth could also reach a very shocking speed. Whoosh 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 whoosh. In everyone's astonished eyes, these 200 missiles were getting faster and faster, faster and faster. In a short 6 or 7 miles, only a distance of 3,000 meters, it was only 10 seconds. Destroy these things, Ling Chuzi suddenly ordered. But it was too late. Not every Black Vulture warrior was an expert who could slash out sword light. These small crystal missiles, at more than twice the speed of sound, fiercely plunged into the Black Vulture Corps. Puff puff puff. The first casualty was not the explosion, but these missiles, which directly penetrated the body of the Black Vulture Corps, directly tearing the Black Vulture Corps, which was as hard as iron, in half. Then it suddenly exploded. Boom. Boom! Boom! In an instant, nearly 200 Phoenix-level small crystal missiles violently exploded. At every moment, the small missiles almost burst out a huge fireball with a diameter of hundreds of meters. In an instant, the entire sky was swallowed by countless flame giant flowers, completely dyeing the entire sky red. Among these missiles, there were only about 100 kilograms of high explosives, about 5 kilograms of ordinary fire crystals, and 3 grams of blood-black gold accompanying crystals. The power could only blow up a house that covered an area of 2 or 3 acres. However, it was enough, and it was already very amazing. Because at this time, the Black Vulture Corps was very crowded in order to completely destroy the Demon Vulture Corps. Although this kind of missile was called a small missile, it was also a large rocket on Earth. And because of the existence of special crystals, its power was even more amazing. Boom 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 boom. Within a large circle of 30 meters of each explosion, all the Black Vultures were directly burned into charcoal by the terrible high temperature, and then shattered into pieces. The Black Vultures within 50 meters instantly exploded on their backs, completely dying tragically. And the Black Vultures within 100 meters, although not dead, were also seriously injured. Suddenly, the sky seemed to rain black vultures. Countless charcoal, countless minced meat, and countless black vulture corpses fell one after another. Everyone had no time to be shocked. The second wave of missiles came again. Whoosh 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 whoosh. This time, there were as many as 800 small crystal bullets. The flying speed was only about a quarter of the previous Phoenix-level missiles. The power of the explosion was less than a third. However, the previous round of explosions caused the entire Black Vulture Corps to be in chaos, and there was no time to intercept this new wave of attacks. Suddenly, of the 800 ordinary crystal missiles, more than 700 of them fiercely smashed into the Black Vulture Corps, like a metal rainstorm. Boom 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 boom. There was another earth-shattering explosion. The flames of these ordinary crystal missiles were not much smaller than the Phoenix-level crystal missiles, so the scene was still earth-shattering. Countless black vultures were once again swallowed by the flames, and the scene was extremely shocking. But in fact, the casualties caused by these 800 missiles were less than half of the previous 200 Phoenix-level missiles. The power of the explosion was less than a third, but it did not mean that the lethality was less than a third. Therefore, the second wave of missiles, except for the center of the explosion that would directly kill the black vultures, could only injure them, but could not kill them. This was the difference between Phoenix-level missiles and ordinary missiles. The bloody black gold-associated crystal was so powerful. Even the Phoenix-level missiles just now all successfully reached their targets and detonated. As for the ordinary missiles, there were still more than a dozen of them that directly lost their direction in the air. They either flew in other directions or directly fell to the ground. When the power of the crystal was exhausted, it exploded violently. The first wave of attacks had left Ling Chuzi and the experts of the Spirit Vulture Palace completely dumbfounded. The neat formation of the Black Vulture Corps was suddenly in disorder, as if it had been cheated alive. There was a missing piece here and there. Ling Chuzi looked at everything in disbelief. The spectators also looked at everything in disbelief. How many black vultures had been killed in the first wave of attacks of the Demon Vulture Corps' secret weapon? No one knew. No one knew now. But when the Demon Vulture's corpses fell just now, it was really more mysterious than raindrops. The results of this wave of attacks alone were much greater than the last time, when the 2,000 Demon Vulture Corps fought for a quarter of an hour. At least, this first wave of attacks directly killed and seriously injured thousands of black vultures. Before Ling Chuzi could react, the second wave of attacks of the Demon Vulture Corps came. This time, 500 Phoenix-level missiles and 500 ordinary fire-level missiles whizzed over in an instant. A gorgeous light streaked across the sky. At this time, no one dared to laugh. They only felt that these flames were completely emitting the aura of death. Ling Chuzi immediately roared. Disperse, disperse, army, disperse. That's right. Such a dense formation was useful before, but now it was completely courting death. Moreover, it was foreseeable that from now on, the Vulture Palace would not dare to let the Black Vulture Corps form such a dense formation. Immediately, the Black Vulture Corps immediately changed their formation and dispersed. But in panic, not only did they not disperse, but they crowded together in groups. However, the Phoenix-level missiles that were more than twice the speed of sound wouldn't wait for them. In an instant, 500 Phoenix-level missiles fiercely plunged into the Black Vulture Corps. Because the Black Vulture Corps was too secretive, nearly 70% of the missiles hit directly. The remaining 30% just flew faster and faster, whizzing over. Some still crashed into the black vultures behind them, while others flew further and further away. Boom 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 boom. Another earth-shattering explosion occurred. Then, the black vultures in the sky fell like a rainstorm. This time, no one knew how many of them died. Before they had time to be shocked, the 500 ordinary small crystal missiles behind came like a storm. However, the hit rate of this wave of ordinary missiles instantly dropped to 50%. But still, it caused another earth-shattering explosion. The spectators found that the extremely fast missile in front was so fast that it made people tremble. After flying dozens of miles away, it directly exploded in the air. In other words, this thing could fly dozens of miles away at such a fast speed. How amazing was that? In the last wave, No less than 200 ordinary crystal missiles did not hit the target. After flying dozens of miles away, they suddenly exploded. Looking at the Black Vulture core again, less than half of them were intact. The remaining Black Vulture core, which was less than half intact, immediately scattered and desperately scattered. They did not dare to gather together again. If they gathered together, they would be the living targets of the terrible missiles. At this time, Song Chunhua ordered 10 Black Vultures, changed to small and medium-sized crystal crossbows. Hunt freely. After hearing the order, the 1,000 Demon Vulture Corps immediately changed their formation. 10 in a group, a total of 100 groups. Each group formed a sharp knife-killing formation, sandwiching small and medium-sized crystal crossbows. Originally, small crystal crossbows were used. Later, they found that the demon vultures were large and heavy. They could use small and medium-sized crossbows, which were more lethal to the black vultures. Moreover, they could directly fix the small and medium-sized crystal crossbows to the north of the black vultures. At this time, the remaining 10,000 or so intact black vultures desperately scattered in private. Because there was no complete order, it was difficult to form a complete battle formation. Behind them, 100 hunting squads whistled as they approached. Therefore, an extremely absurd scene appeared. 1,000 demon vultures were crazily chasing after more than 10,000 black vultures. Moreover, the demon vultures flew faster. As long as the distance was within 2 miles, the small and medium-sized crystal crossbows on the back of the demon vultures would shoot wildly. Because of the change to small and medium-sized crystal crossbows, the shooting power was instantly 7 or 8 times stronger. Furthermore, instead of shooting 1 arrow each time, he would shoot 3 long sharp arrows at a time. Whoosh 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 whoosh. In an instant, large crossbow arrows 2 meters long were shot out like a rainstorm. The crossbow arrows were not as precious as the small crystal missiles. It did not matter how much they were used. Therefore, as long as there was a chance, the demon vulture warriors would shoot wildly. After increasing the crystal crossbows, the power of the crossbow arrows also doubled instantly. Once shot from the back, they would basically be inserted 3 or 4 feet into the black vulture's body. Even if they did not die, they would be greatly injured. Therefore, the Black Vulture Corps, which had lost its organization, was like a plate of loose sand. They were crazily hunted by the Demon Vulture Corps, which only had 1/10 of their numbers. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Countless crossbow arrows sprayed out like a rainstorm. The black vultures were not as fast as the demon vultures, so it was difficult for them to escape the pursuit. In an instant, the Black Vulture Corps in the sky rapidly decreased. Once again, the black vultures rained down. Countless black vulture corpses and secret manuals smashed to the ground. Ling Chuzi looked at this shocking scene. At this time, the number of black vultures in the sky was decreasing. There were only a few thousand left. At this time, even if they fought face to face with swords, they were no match for the Demon Vulture Corps. Therefore, no matter how unwilling Ling Chuzi was, he could only shout, "Retreat, retreat!" Suddenly, the surviving black vulture warriors in the sky were so excited that they almost burst into tears. The black vultures were not afraid of death, but they were. Immediately, they controlled the almost crazy black vultures to flee in the direction of the South Middle Continent. Continue to chase and destroy the enemy, Song Chunhua ordered. Then, 100 groups of demon vulture hunting teams chased at full speed. The experts of the Council of Light rode on the black vultures and chased closely. Although the Vulture Palace would not break the rules and use martial arts, they still had to be on guard. The Great Middle Continent was thousands of miles away from the South Middle Continent. 1,000 demon vulture corps chased crazily for thousands of miles. Along the way, the Black Vulture Corps fled desperately. However, they were not fast enough. Moreover, the Demon Vulture Corps used long-range attacks. Not only did they have no power to fight back, they could not escape the pursuit at all. The experts of the Vulture Palace were mad with anger. They almost could not help but use martial arts to kill the hateful Demon Vulture Corps behind them. However, if they dared to do so, the experts of the Council of Light behind them would not mind using martial arts to kill them all. Just like this, Ling Chuzi, and the other experts suddenly realized that the demon vulture core behind them did not continue to pursue. Then he realized that the black vulture core had been completely annihilated. Only he and dozens of Vulture Palace experts were left. After half a day of fighting, the 30,000 black vulture core were completely annihilated. Chapter 718. After the experts of the Vulture Palace fled to the south-central continent, there was no response. Because Ling Chuzi had no authority, he had to report the news to the Vulture Palace and wait for Wulingzi's next order. When Wulingzi heard that the 30,000 Black Vulture army was wiped out by a mere 1,000 Devil Vulture army, he was completely stunned. He didn't dare to believe it. How was this possible? How was this possible? Why was the Vulture Palace so domineering and arrogant? Wasn't it because the Black Vulture army was invincible? For the past 200 years, the number one strategic formation of the Vulture Palace was the Black Vultures, Black Vultures, Black Vultures. They used all their strength, and all the barbarians and beasts in the South Barbarian continent to feed the Black Vultures. Therefore, in 200 years, the Black Vulture army had increased from 20,000 to 200,000. These 200,000 Black Vultures gave Wulingzi great confidence. He even felt that even when Tion's Legion of Doom wouldn't be able to break into his Vulture Palace. Last time, the 2,000 Devil Vultures fought against the Black Vulture army, and a few thousand of them died. Wulingzi did not care at all, because the Demon Vulture Legion had also lost more than 500, and a few hundred were injured. This kind of casualty ratio was completely within his expectations. The Devil Vulture army only had 4,000 Black Vultures and 200,000 Black Vultures. Even if the Devil Vulture army was wiped out, the Black Vulture's casualties wouldn't exceed 20,000. It was a drop in the ocean. But this time, 1,000 Devil Vulture army actually wiped out 30,000 Black Vultures. This was too shocking. Impossible, impossible, impossible. Wulingzi said impossible more than 10 times before he calmed down. Then how many casualties did the Devil Vulture army have? Wulingzi asked. The Vulture Palace expert stammered. It seems like 0. What? Wulingzi hissed. Are you talking in your sleep? Last time, he killed a few thousand of my Black Vultures, and also lost 1,000. Now there are no casualties? Are you dreaming? The Vulture Palace expert said. There really are no casualties. The Devil Vulture army used a new secret weapon, and killed countless of our Black Vultures from a few miles away. We couldn't even get close. Wulingzi asked in shock. Secret weapon? The Vulture Spirit Palace expert said. It's a type of metal tube that shoots out a type of metal bullet. 100 kilograms of iron vultures. It flew very quickly, several times faster than the vultures. An iron vulture is. And vulture. One of these metal bullets is enough to kill a dozen of our Black Vultures. Wulingzi instantly thought of the terrifying things that were shot into the Spirit Vulture Palace 10 days ago. Especially the last one, which caused the ground within a radius of several dozen miles to collapse by several tens of feet. This powers vulture. Who would have thought that this thing could be shrunk and shot out from the Demon Vulture's body? It could even be used against the Black Vulture army. Suddenly, Wulingzi felt somewhat disheartened. He sighed and said, The times have changed. The Vulture Palace expert said. Ancestor, how should we respond? Should we gather all the Black Vulture army and rush into Zhongjing to kill? Are you going to kill all my Black Vultures? Wulingzi said coldly. Ancestor, it's not impossible to deal with the Council of Light's iron barrel missile. Disperse the Black Vulture army, and it won't hit. That thing's accuracy is very low, the Vulture Palace expert said. Moreover, I believe that this thing must be very precious. The Council of Light doesn't have many of them. We don't need to be scared. Wulingzi hesitated for a moment and shook his head. Forget it, let's hold back for now. Send a letter to Zhongjing and ask Yongding Tian to come to Vulture Palace personally to apologize. Then we'll let this matter go, the Vulture Palace expert said. That's it? That's it. What, do I need you to teach me how to do things? Wulingzi said coldly. I don't dare, the Vulture Palace expert said. I'll send a letter to Yongding Tian and ask him to come to Vulture Palace to apologize. Just like that, Wuxia planned to turn this matter into a small one, and a small one into nothing. Wuxia wanted to let this matter go, but Yang Dingtian didn't agree. It was obvious that he didn't intend to give up. Qin Wanshou had already entered the south-central region, before the letter asking Yang Dingtian to apologize had even reached the central region. He didn't say a word and directly handed a letter of challenge to Ling Chuzi. Then he turned and left. That's right, it was a letter of challenge, a real letter of challenge. Seeing this letter of challenge, Ling Chuzi didn't open it. He felt as if his hand had been stung. He and all the Vulture Palace experts were stunned. What did Yang Dingtian mean by this? Was he crazy? Was he really going to declare war on Vulture Palace? Wuxia had already planned to turn this matter into a small one and find a way out. However, Yang Dingtian didn't let this matter go, and actually issued a letter of challenge. Was he really going to start a war? Ling Chuzi didn't read this letter of challenge, and directly sent someone to deliver it to Vulture Palace. A few hours later, this letter of challenge appeared in Wuxia's hands. Yang Dingtian's letter of challenge to Vulture Palace was written as follows. Wuxia, you old bastard. Not only did you not come to Zhongjing to apologize, you even sent 30,000 Black Vulture troops to despicably ambush the Council of Light. Such a deranged behavior is unforgivable. Here, the Council of Light officially declares war on Vulture Palace, swearing to erase Vulture Palace from this world, completely liberate the southern barbarian continent, and completely save the savages of the southern barbarian continent from hell. Clap, 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 clap. These rude words were like slaps to Wuxia's old face. In particular, the sentence erase Vulture Palace from this world completely stabbed Wuxia. Overturn the heavens, overturn the heavens. Yang Dingtian, your crimes are unforgivable, unforgivable. Tear you to pieces, I will definitely tear you to pieces. Having just lost 30,000 Black Vulture troops, Wuxia was about to grit his teeth and swallow it, not wanting to bicker with Yang Dingtian. Instead, Yang Dingtian was relentless, and even said that he would erase Vulture Palace. This was simply trampling on the dignity of Vulture Palace. This was simply trembling, Wuxia said sternly. Fine, let's start the war. Send out all the Black Vulture troops, all of them. Today, I will have a life-and-death battle with Yang Dingtian. After Wuxia gave the order with great anger, the 80,000 Black Vulture troops in the Vulture Palace rushed out of the southern barbarian continent and whistled directly to the middle continent. This was the first time in hundreds of years, that all 200,000 Black Vulture troops left the Vulture Palace and the southern barbarian continent. Countless people saw this scene, and saw the Black Vulture troops that blotted out the sky, and the sun enter the middle continent. This scene seemed to have given the leaders of the middle continent a shot in the arm. The scene of the 30,000 Black Vulture troops being wiped out the day before scared them out of their wits. They were in a constant state of anxiety. After returning, they took the initiative to go to the North Mansion, and groveled to ask for the third negotiation. However, the 200,000 Black Vulture troops of the Vulture Palace came out in full force, which instantly made them extremely excited. Their judgment was the same as that of the Vulture Palace. The Council of Light did not have many of those small missiles. Perhaps they had already been used up yesterday. Moreover, after the event, they also judged that the iron cylinder missile had a big flaw. That was, its accuracy was not good enough. In the last wave of attack in yesterday's battle, 50% of them missed their targets. Therefore, as long as the Black Vulture troops were scattered, the lethality of this missile would be greatly reduced. Therefore, the leaders of the Middle Continent began to celebrate again. Therefore, after the negotiation started in the evening, the leaders of the Middle Continent changed their humble attitude from yesterday to smiling poker faces. Dongfang Minmi still put forward the three conditions. Then, the leaders of the Middle Continent refused without hesitation. Therefore, Dongfang Minmi sneered and said, "Everyone, yesterday you begged and pleaded for the third negotiation to be restarted. As a result, when the negotiation started today, you were disinterested and indifferent. You didn't even show any sincerity in the negotiation. Why do you have to be so respectful? The leaders of the Middle Continent just smiled faintly and did not respond. Then the third negotiation, which had just started, parted on bad terms before it started. After the 80,000 black vultures entered the South Middle Continent again, there were 200,000 black vulture troops. Moreover, the people of the Vulture Palace began to move frequently and took the initiative to contact the forces of the Middle Continent. 200,000 black vultures began to organize and line up, ready to launch a fatal blow to Zhongjing at any time. Suddenly, everyone's eyes were fixed on the North Mansion of Zhongjing. The words of the leaders of the Middle Continent became more and more unbearable. He's exposed, isn't he? Young Dingtian is acting like a coward. What do you mean by tough on the outside but weak on the inside? This is tough on the outside but weak on the inside. Young Dingtian took the initiative to issue a challenge. As a result, 200,000 black vulture troops came. And he is a coward again. Yes, he has been seen through. Whatever secret weapon, it has all been used up. Young Dingtian is at his wit's end. It's hard to escape. It's definitely hard to escape. Of course, the leaders of Zhengzhou State were not such shallow people. They were all eloquent. They were encouraging themselves and provoking young Dingtian at the same time. They hoped that the Council of Light would really go to war with the Vulture Palace, and they would reap the benefits without doing anything. Soon, the Council of Light responded, and it was an earth-shattering response. Nearly 1 million troops in the North Middle Continent crossed the sea directly to the south. The West Continent Army, which had been on standby at sea for several days, was about to turn around. Thousands of warships and nearly 2 million troops headed east at full speed, directly into the Middle Continent. What was more critical was that the fleet of the Yingzhou Empire, that had ambushed the spiritual Vulture Palace with super missiles, was marching south ferociously again, to the west of the spiritual Vulture Palace. That wasn't all. With the Yin-Yang sect as the leader, the East Continent's factions had been inspired by Yang Dingtian's great victory. The atmosphere of surrendering was instantly swept away. Immediately, the Radiance Parliament's factions had an overwhelming advantage. Under the orders of the Council of Light, the East Continent Army also began to gather their troops and martial arts forces, preparing to head west. Not only that, most of the Southwest Fleet was blockading the Netherworld Sea. Even so, they still managed to gather an army of a few 100,000. They boarded the newest warships and charged over from the west. Everyone was shocked by Yang Dingtian's generosity. 5 armies were attacking the South Middle Continent, and the Vulture Palace from the east, west, and north. Tens of thousands of warships, and more than 4 million troops were mobilized. From the looks of it, they were going to completely occupy the entire South Barbarian continent, and wipe the Vulture Palace off the face of the earth. They were really going to wipe the Vulture Palace off the face of the earth, just like what was written in the letter of challenge. At this time, Ling Chuzi had a feeling that the 30,000 black vultures entering Zhongjing was like poking a hornet's nest. Then countless hornets came in a frenzy, blotting out the sky and covering the earth. Yes, the 200,000 black vulture troops entered the South Middle Continent, but without Walingzi's order, they could not move. In the past few days, information about the Council of Light's army had been sent to the Vulture Palace one by one. However, Walingzi, who was in the Vulture Palace, did not respond. Ling Chuzi immediately complained in his heart. If you want to fight, fight now. It was the best time to strike while the Council of Light was still on the way. In the end, you didn't fight, nor did you retreat. The 200,000 black vultures were here to scare people. Moreover, so what if the Council of Light had millions of troops? They could do nothing against the black vulture troops in the sky. Wu Lingzi had the same thoughts as well. Even though he had also felt the monstrous pressure, and was indeed intimidated by Yang Dingtian's army, that had split into 5 groups, he wasn't too afraid. Because these troops were not a big threat to the black vulture troops. These troops could not enter the Vulture Palace. However, the next piece of information really scared the crap out of the Spirit Vulture Palace. Because thousands of huge missiles were continuously transported from the West Continent. Each missile was bigger than the ones that attacked the Vulture Palace. That was not all. The next 3,000 demon vulture troops were all equipped with iron barrels of missiles. Not only that, But there were also thousands of Golden Eagle troops, and tens of thousands of other elite winged cavalry. They were all equipped. Each winged cavalry carried an iron barrel and 10 missiles when they went north. There was also a small crystal crossbow and countless crossbow bolts. Tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of small crystal missiles were transported to the Zhongzhou state one after another like a mountain. All of a sudden, the people of the Zhongzhou state were almost scared to death. This was too fucking crazy. Previously, 1,000 demon vulture troops used this secret weapon to kill 30,000 black vulture troops. Now the Council of Light had madly piled up tens of thousands of launchers and transported hundreds of thousands of small crystal missiles. Not to mention 200,000 Black Vulture Legion. Even 500,000 Black Vulture Legion would be wiped out. Moreover, there were many rumors circulating in the Zhongzhou state. For example, Queen Hyacinth of the Snakemen Empire was Yun Junna's foster mother and master. Another rumor was that Queen Hyacinth was actually one of Yang Dingtian's lovers. And in the Snakemen Empire, there were no less than 20 great grandmasters. Some people sneakily said that Duge Xiao of the Temple of Blood had been in the Zhongzhou state recently. There was also news that Zhu Qingzhu was currently trying his best to return to the Zhongzhou state. Of course, the giant missiles and the small crystal missiles were all models. Where could the Council of Light find these crystals? The real missiles had been used up long ago. Bad news came one after another. Every one of them made people tremble with fear. Wolingzi's whole body was cold. He had been hiding in the thatched hut and would not come out. Yang Dingtian is not only going to destroy the Vulture Palace. He is also going to kill me. Chapter 719. He had planned this all along. After defeating Wu Yuming, he was ready to destroy the spiritual Vulture Palace. Lass, do you think Yang Dingtian is serious this time or is he faking it? Wu Lingzi asked. Vulture shook his head and said, I don't know. I have already lost my ability to judge him. Then do you think he has the ability to destroy the Vulture Palace? Wu Lingzi asked. The thousands of large missiles he showed, are they real? And the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of small crystal bombs, are they real? I don't know either. Vulture shook his head and said, but I know that he still has a trump card that he hasn't used yet. What is it? Wu Lingzi asked. Do you still remember the blood pool in front of Cloud Sky City? The blood pool that can corrode everything is spreading rapidly. In just a few days, it has engulfed hundreds of miles of land. Soon it will engulf the entire Cloud Sky City. Vulture said, this is called a biochemical weapon in Cloud Sky City. Yang Dingtian used it to instantly kill Ning Wuming's 30,000 blood pupil demonic army. It was also at that time that Ning Wuming lost his army, and his waist was broken. He could only rely on Zhu Qingzhu and Wu Yuming. Biochemical weapon, Wu Lingzi said. That's the poison that Wu Yuming thought of and Zhu Qingzhu wanted. If it is allowed to spread, it will be able to engulf the entire northwest continent. Yes, Vulture said. Other than dealing with Ning Wuming and Qin Chichi, Yang Dingtian has never used this kind of biochemical weapon. Wu Yuming and I once speculated that it might be a variant of the deep-sea Xian poison. Deep-sea Xian poison? Something from Naga? Wu Lingzi suddenly said in shock. Then why didn't Yang Dingtian use it? If he used this kind of weapon, wouldn't it be easier to destroy Zhu Qingzhu's army? Wouldn't it be easier to destroy the Black Vulture army with this so-called biological weapon? I've speculated that a single shot of such a poisonous crystal arrow would be enough to turn a black vulture into a puddle of pus, Vulture said. Wu Lingzi said, is the reason why Yang Dingtian doesn't use this deadly biological weapon because it's too vicious, so he only uses it on evil ways? As for Zhu Qingzhu, he saw it as a civil war between the Tiando League. He even views my Vulture Palace as a civil war within the Tiando League. Is that why he doesn't want to use such a vicious weapon to exterminate us? Vulture said, I've thought about it for a long time, and it should be like this. Just like how Yang Dingtian subdued Song Xiao and Qin Huayu before. Maybe he also wants to subdue our Black Vulture army and make it the main force in the future Doomsday War. In his dreams, Wu Lingzi sneered and said, The enmity between him and me is irreconcilable. I can't wait to tear him into pieces. It's pure daydreaming, if he wants to use the Black Vulture army. Vulture said, but if we force him into a corner, he will really exterminate our Black Vulture army. Because only by destroying our Black Vulture army can he rest assured to reorganize Zhongzhou state. Wulingzi suddenly fell into silence. After a long time he asked, Girl, what do you think is the reason for my fight with Yang Dingtian? Vulture thought for a while and said, Anger face. In fact, our Vulture Palace and him are indeed life and death enemies. However, it isn't in the military. Instead, it is in the life and death situation between you and Yang Dingtian. So our key is to kill Yang Dingtian, not to destroy his army. Wulingzi nodded hard and said, Yes, our purpose is to kill Yang Dingtian. As for how many troops we destroy, and how much territory we occupy, it doesn't mean anything to us. If we really defeat Yang Dingtian's army, it will only benefit those bastards in Zhongzhou state who are watching the show. Now Wu Yuming doesn't even know whether she's dead or alive. Why should I fight Yang Dingtian with all my might? Yes, for us, the key is to kill Yang Dingtian. The army of the Council of Light has nothing to do with us. Even if we destroy 1 million or 10 million of them, it doesn't mean much, Vulture said. All right. Little girl, you can be considered to have some friendship with him. Go and talk to him. Both sides should stop fighting, Wulingzi said. Vulture said, I don't want to go. This time, you have to go, Wulingzi said. Because only you and he are friends. If necessary, you can use some tricks. Vulture's expression changed. Are you saying that I can use a honey trap? I didn't say that. I just said that you can act at your discretion until the goal of stopping the war is achieved, Wulingzi said. Vulture gritted his teeth and said, Okay, I'll go. Yang Dingtian's 5 armies, a total of 4 million, were still approaching Zhongzhou state and Nambarbarian state from the sea and land. Suddenly, the entire chaotic world was like a storm that was about to come. Everyone held their breaths, waiting for the outbreak of the war. What was more strange was that Netherworld Sea was completely silent about everything in front of them. They did not express any attitude, but they were still in Zhongjing South Prefecture, and did not retreat. One day later, Vulture rode a black vulture and entered Zhongjing, asking to see Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian, I know that your plan to deal with the Vulture Palace is fake. Your real plan is to reorganize Zhongzhou state. Vulture said slowly. In front of a smart person, there is no need to lie. Keep the South Prefecture, release my mother, divide Zhongzhou state, and we can stop the war. Yang Dingtian looked at Vulture in shock. After a long time he said, Is your brain damaged? After destroying the Black Vulture army, I can deal with Zhongzhou state at any time. If not to destroy your Black Vulture army, why would I transport so many small crystal missiles? Vulture said, Who knows if your crystal missiles are real or just empty shells? In a fit of anger, Spirit Vulture revealed the truth. Yang Dingtian lowered his head and said, Servant June, send Miss Vulture out. Then, he directly refused to negotiate. Servant Yun stepped forward and chased Vulture out with a rude attitude. Vulture was furious and said coldly, Servant Yun June, what right do you have to talk to me like that? Don't forget that I am the mistress of the South Prefecture, and you are just a servant. Servant Yun Jun looked at Vulture and sneered. Don't you read the newspaper? Your husband has become one of the young masters of the evil ways, and he is notorious. If you don't draw a line with him, we will arrest you at any time and execute you. You dare? Vulture said coldly, Servant Yun Jun, if you dare to talk to me like that, you will die on the street one day. Servant Jun, slap her. Yang Dingtian ordered. Slap. Servant Yun Jun slapped her hard. Vulture wanted to dodge, but she was trapped by Yang Dingtian's energy and could not move. Suddenly, there was a crisp sound. Vulture's delicate face was swollen, and her delicate body was slapped away. Then, she showed an extremely vicious look, and was about to say something. If you dare to threaten me, I will execute you immediately, Yang Dingtian said indifferently. Don't forget that your old bastard is a half-saint, and so is Servant Yun Jun's master. Suddenly, Vulture felt extremely humiliated and walked out angrily. After walking out, Vulture said loudly, Yang Dingtian, your missiles are all a bluff. Don't think that I don't know. Let me tell you, if you don't agree to stop fighting today, it will be too late if you want to stop fighting in the future. Then Vulture walked out angrily. How many small crystal missiles have we produced in the past few days? Yang Dingtian asked. Servant Yun Jun said, we have sent out 30,000 prospectors, and 4 of them have returned. They brought back a total of 47 kilograms of bloody black gold accompanying crystals. This is the result of 1.5 months ago. We have produced a total of 115 Phoenix-grade crystal missiles. Yang Dingtian said, use them all. Send a Demon Vulture squad to launch a sneak attack on the Black Vulture Legion's camp. Yes, Servant Yin Jun said. By the way, Madame Emma Weaver provided a kind of corpse poison to the warlock ancestor. She specially made 50 ghost-grade missiles. Do you want to use them? Yang Dingtian knew that this corpse poison was far inferior to the deep-sea Xian poison, but it was refined from countless corpses. It was something left from Ning Wuming's era. When the Blood-Eye Demon Army was created, only 1 in 10 could become a Blood-Eye Demon Army. The rest would die miserably and be refined into corpse poison. This corpse poison would become nutrients for the Blood-Eye Demon Army. But for ordinary creatures, this corpse poison was a nightmare. Although they wouldn't die, but their bodies would gradually fester. Moreover, this thing was infectious. Use 10, and then seal all these corpse poison missiles. Don't make any more. Yang Dingtian said, we will need this Black Vulture Legion in the future. We can't kill them all. Yes, Servant Yun Jun said. Then she drafted an order and Yang Dingtian signed it. This sneak attack mission was directly handed over to Song Chunhua. After receiving the order, Song Chunhua immediately selected the most elite 100 black vultures. In the darkness, they rose to more than 10,000 meters. Under the cover of the night, they flew towards the south. At this time, they couldn't directly fly to the South Middle Continent. Otherwise, they would be easily discovered by the Black Vulture Legion's aerial patrol. One must know that in terms of flying altitude, the Black Vulture Legion was not much lower than the Demon Vulture Legion. At this time, there were at least 10,000 black vultures monitoring and patrolling the South Middle Continent. Therefore, they had to take a detour to avoid the patrolling black vultures and sneak attack from the back of the South Middle Continent. Not only that, they also had to send out the Demon Vulture King to carry out a feint attack. When necessary, it would attract the patrolling black vultures. The Demon Vulture King and the sneak attack team, one to the east and one to the west, took a detour of more than 10,000 miles and suddenly came to the south of the South Middle Continent. Then, Kuei Qing rode the Demon Vulture King and rushed into the South Middle Continent. After rushing for a few hundred miles, they were immediately discovered by the patrolling Black Vulture Cavalry. Then countless patrolling Black Vulture Cavalry desperately blew the horn of the enemy attack. Suddenly, the patrolling Black Vultures within hundreds of miles and thousands of miles, all frantically chased and intercepted. The Black Vulture Legion on the ground, as if facing a great enemy, rose into the air one after another. But soon, they found that there was only one Demon Vulture. However, this Demon Vulture's flying speed had reached an astonishing 4,000 miles per hour. It was more than 4 times the speed of the Black Vultures. They could not catch up at all. In this way, the Demon Vulture King led hundreds and thousands of Black Vultures in the air. Not to mention catching it, they could not even catch its shadow. Suddenly, the Vulture Palace was so angry that they cursed loudly. At this time, the Black Vulture sneak attack team led by Song Chunhua was lurking on the sea. The Demon Vulture King attracted all the patrolling Black Vultures within 1,000 miles, tormenting them in the air. After a full 4 hours, the Vulture Palace finally gave up. Besieging. In the Black Vulture camp, peace was restored. However, the patrolling order was completely disrupted, and the patrol tasks needed to be reclassified. As a result, there was a temporary patrolling void and chaos in the sky above the entire Black Vulture camp. At this time, the sneak attack team led by Song Chunhua, like an arrow, suddenly rose into the sky. With the fastest speed, almost 1,000 miles per hour, They madly plunged into the interior of the south-central continent. The Black Vulture camp of the Vulture Palace spanned 100 miles and was 700 miles away from the Southern Sea. In less than an hour, the Demon Vulture sneak attack team arrived in the sky above the camp. Without any hesitation, they directly aimed at the camp on the ground. Ignite fire! In an instant, more than 100 Phoenix-level missiles and 5 zombie poison bombs whizzed down from the sky. Whoosh 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 whoosh, powered by crystals, coupled with the acceleration of gravity. The missiles shot down from a height of 10,000 meters reached a low altitude of 2,000 meters. Their speed was extremely astonishing, 3 or 4 times the speed of sound. At this time, the Black Vulture camp did not even talk about intercepting them. After seeing these missiles shot down, just as they shouted the enemy attack, the missiles had already entered 5,000 meters in the air. Then the experts of the Vulture Palace ordered to activate the large crystal crossbows, but it was too late to shoot into the air, because as long as they were wound, they would consume the energy of crystals, so they would not be wound until the war. Occasionally, large crystal crossbows would be wound at all times for anti-air defense, but at this time, it was completely impossible to shoot the missiles. Whoosh 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 whoosh. More than 100 missiles whizzed and smashed into the ground at a speed of 1,000 meters per second. Boom 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 boom. More than 100 missiles, like a rainstorm, attacked the Black Vulture camp more than 10 miles away. In an instant, 100 meters of flames burst out. The entire night sky was completely illuminated. Countless Black Vultures and Black Vulture warriors were instantly smashed to pieces. And several of the missiles, after the explosion, there was no fire, only green smoke in the sky. Then, no matter if it was a Black Vulture or a human, as long as they were touched by the green smoke, only the flesh on their body began to fester, which was extremely disgusting and terrifying. And the Demon Vulture sneak attack team led by Song Chunhua, after firing the missiles, did not even look at the results. They directly rose into the air and flew to the west. That's right, they flew to the west, not directly to the north. Because if they went north, they would be intercepted by the Black Vultures. If they went to the west, with the speed of the Demon Vulture army, it was impossible for the Black Vulture army to catch up. As for the Black Vulture corps that was ambushed, other than desperately chasing after the Demon Vulture corps that was ambushed, they could not counterattack at all. They could only report to Wu Lingzi of the Spirit Vulture Palace again, and wait for orders. Because Ling Chuzi had no power. When Wu Lingzi received this information, his body immediately trembled. This sneak attack had killed nearly 1,000 Black Vultures, and injured more than 1,000. This number of casualties was not a big deal, but it was very significant. Just a moment ago, Vulture said that Yang Dingtian was bluffing, and that these crystal missiles were fake. Then he shot more than 100 missiles, and killed more than 1,000 Black Vultures. This was not a big deal. The most terrifying thing was the black poisonous bombs in the report. Although no Black Vulture died after the explosion, no matter if it was a human or a Black Vulture, after being infected by this poison, they would constantly fester and spread. At present, more than 100 Black Vultures have been infected with this terrible black poison, and their bodies have begun to fester. Obviously, this was a warning from Yang Dingtian. He was telling Wu Lingzi that he did have a more powerful secret weapon that was suspected to be the deep sea Xian poison, but he did not use it. Instead, he used the inferior poisonous bombs. If he had really used the deep sea Xian poison, who knew how many Black Vultures would have died? Wu Lingzi stared coldly at Vulture and said, "Why? I clearly asked you to take the initiative to stop the war. Why did you provoke Yang Dingtian?" Vulture gritted his teeth and said, "Even if we stop the war, we can't compromise too much. Otherwise, Yang Dingtian will only take an inch and want a mile. So, I'm just fighting for the conditions that Vulture Palace deserves." "Then what should we do now?" Wu Lingzi said, "Your rude attitude has angered Yang Dingtian. He is a person who can be persuaded by reason, but not cowed by force. You know best. Just because of your pampering, my Black Vulture Legion has suffered such heavy losses." Vulture gritted his teeth and did not say anything. Okay, you continue to go to Zhongjing. This time, no matter what method you use, even if you have to sleep with Yang Dingtian, you must make him stop the war. Walingzi said sternly, you don't have any choice. You said it yourself, our key is to kill Yang Dingtian, not to start a war. No, I won't go. Vulture said sternly, I won't go and be humiliated by him again. You have to go. Walingzi said word by word, you don't have a choice. You have to go. Vulture said, no, I'd rather die than go. You can kill me. In any case, I won't go and look at Yang Dingtian's face again. I won't go and be humiliated by him again. Then, Vulture looked at Walingzi with teary eyes and said, Father, even if your daughter begs you, go to the Sea of Hades again. Well, you can't stand aside and watch the show. You must persuade her. The two of you go to Zhongjing together and capture Yang Dingtian. Force Wu Maji to hand over her evil spirit power, so that she can't kill me at any time. I beg you, for your own sake and for your daughter, try one more time. After saying that, Vulture knelt down in front of Walingzi. Walingzi's face twitched. He gritted his teeth for a long time and said, I really owe you a lot in my previous life. Just let this old face of mine be trampled by her again. But what if Wu Yu still doesn't agree? Vulture said, then I'll go to Zhongjing. Even if I have to sleep with Yang Dingtian, I'll make him stop the war. Walingzi stomped his foot and turned into a stream of light, flying toward the Sea of Hades again. The Council of Light's army didn't change at all. They still moved at the same speed toward Zhongjing and Nambarbarian continent. The Black Vulture Corps that didn't receive any orders could only desperately send out air patrols to guard against the Council of Light's sneak attack. Without orders, they couldn't fight back at all. It was really frustrating to the extreme. The encirclement of Nanzhong and Barbarian continent had been formed day by day. The entire Nanzhong felt suffocated. Walingzi rushed to the Sea of Hades with his fastest speed. After entering the Sea of Hades, he met Wu Yu again. His intention was still to invite her to Zhongjing to deal with Yang Dingtian. Wu Yu didn't answer for a long time, but the disdain in her beautiful eyes became stronger and stronger. After a long while she said, Are you still the Wu Ling that I saw 200 years ago? A few days ago, you said you were going to kill Yang Dingtian alone. Why didn't you go? I've never seen a half-saint that's so afraid of death. Then, she left directly, not giving Walingzi a chance to say a second word. She also didn't agree to go to Zhongjing with Walingzi. Instantly, Walingzi was flustered and exasperated. He was embarrassed and angry. Being humiliated like this by the woman of his dreams was the most painful and unbearable thing in the world. He really couldn't understand why Wu Yu rejected him again and again. Instantly, he was even more convinced that Wu Yu didn't have good intentions towards him. Therefore, he rushed out of the Sea of Hades and returned to the Vulture Palace as fast as he could. At this time, Yang Dingtian's army of millions was less than 1,000 miles away from Nanzhong and Barbarian continent. In at most one more day, the army of millions would completely surround Nanzhong and Barbarian continent. At this time, there were only 20 to 30,000 Black Vulture Corps protecting Vulture Palace in Nanzhong. After arriving at Vulture Palace and seeing Vulture, Walingzi's first words were, Go, go, go accompany Yang Dingtian. Even if she defiles you 100 times, you have to stop the war. Chapter 720. Vulture came to Yang Dingtian's North Castle again. After entering, she walked to the table in front of Yang Dingtian expressionlessly and laid down. Come on. Yin Zhena glanced at her and continued to report to Yang Dingtian. This time, Yang Dingtian didn't ignore Vulture. He closed the document in his hand and said, Is there a way to do this? Sleep with me in exchange for a truce. Vulture said, You take me in exchange for a truce. Yang Dingtian's gaze fell on the delicate snow-white body and fell into deep thought. Yin Zhenu was startled and thought, Is this bastard really going to do it? Yang Dingtian said, Then I want to ask clearly, is it only once or always? What do you mean? Vulture asked. Yang Dingtian looked at Vulture and said, Have you ever thought of remarrying me? Then Vulture Palace will completely join the Council of Light. Although I don't want to see the changes in your body, it's still not too late to turn back. Vulture looked at Yang Dingtian for a long time and shook her head. You want our Black Vulture army? Of course. Yang Dingtian said. In 3 to 5 years, the Great War of Destruction will begin. Your 200,000 Black Vultures can fill the gap in the air force of the Tiando League. Impossible, don't even think about it. Vulture said. You can only sleep with me once. It's impossible for me to remarry you and control the Black Vulture army. In this world, anyone can stand with you, but I can't. Why? Don't you dare to face your only pure time? Yang Dingtian asked. Don't make yourself sound like a saint. Vulture said coldly. You want me to remarry you for the sake of the Black Vulture army. How good can it be? Yang Dingtian's expression turned cold as he said. Then forget it. You go and tell Wulingzi. If you want to stop the war, you have to send the entire Black Vulture Corps back to the Vulture Palace and marry me. You want to stop the war after doing it once. That's impossible. You're not made of diamonds. Yang Dingtian's words caused Vulture's body to twitch violently. Junnu, send the guest off. Yang Dingtian said. Yun Zhenyu picked up the clothes from the ground and placed them in front of Vulture. Please. Yun Zhenyu's figure was simply too devilish. When she bent down to pick up Vulture's clothes, her curves were so perfect that no one could look straight at her. Yang Dingtian couldn't help but say. Also, don't think of me as a pervert who can't stand seeing women. Junnu is much more attractive than you. I haven't touched you yet. Ugh. Before he could finish his sentence, Yun Zhenyu walked to his side and used her deerskin boots to step on his toes. It was so painful that Yang Dingtian trembled violently and couldn't say anything else. Yun Zhenyu used her heels to step on Yang Dingtian's toes and said to Vulture, Miss Vulture, do you want to put on your clothes and go out, or just go out like this? Vulture grabbed the clothes and put it on with extreme humiliation and resentment. He then walked out with a face full of resentment. Vulture, I'll give you 24 hours to consider. Either you marry me or go to war. Yang Dingtian said indifferently. Junnu, when did you send the letter to your master? 5 days ago. She should be on her way here. But are you really going to agree to her? Yun Zhenyu asked. Isn't it just selling your body? What's so great about that? Yang Dingtian said indifferently. Vulture shuddered and then slammed the door shut and left the North Mansion. Your reaction is not bad. Yang Dingtian hurriedly took off his boots and rubbed his bruised toes. He looked at Yun Zhenyu's back and said, But your ruthlessness is exactly the same as her. It's just that you are more cunning than her. She is the kind of person who wants to kill your entire family. You are so evil. Yun Zhenyu didn't seem to understand what Yang Dingtian was saying. She opened a document and read it seriously. However, with the documents covering her face, her beautiful and charming lips pursed into a sweet and charming smile. After reading it, Yun Zhenyu said casually, Sect leader, if you blackmail Wulingzi like this, what if he doesn't fall for it? Then there's no other way. We can only make the act real. We will really go to war and land in the South Barbarian continent. Yang Dingtian sighed. Although it will be a tough battle, but if it really comes to that, there's no other way. Yun Zhenyu pretended to be even more casual. If it really comes to that stage, will you really give yourself to my master? I don't know. Yang Dingtian said. Your master is ruthless. If I really sell myself to her and let her get pregnant, it might be the time of my death. She is ambitious and will not be controlled by anyone. Yang Dingtian wants you to marry him? Wulingzi hissed. He wants to encroach on my Black Vulture Legion. Dream on, dream on, dream on. Even if I poison all the Black Vultures to death, I will not give it to him. Wulingzi furiously grabbed a cup of water and drank it in large gulps. Furthermore, he doesn't have many years left to live. Once the Doomsday Battle arrives, he'll be dead for sure. He actually wants to drag the spiritual Vulture Palace down with him? Dream on, dream on. I also directly rejected him. Anyone can follow him, but I can't. I can follow anyone but not him. Vulture said. Then what do we do now? Do we really go to war? He gave us 24 hours. Wulingzi said. What did he say to you? Repeat it word for word. Either we marry him, or we go to war. He gave us 24 hours. Vulture said. And 5 days ago, Yun Zhenyu wrote a letter to Queen Hai Xian. It was as if Yang Dingtian had agreed to some condition of high excion. He mentioned selling himself. Wu Lingzi shuddered and said, "That refers to impregnating high excion. Currently, no one is able to make the snake men go into estrus, and no one is able to impregnate them. It seems like Yang Dingtian is an exception." Vulture sneered. "He is really a stud horse." Wu Lingzi said, "Yang Dingtian said marriage, but he didn't say who he was going to marry, right?" Vulture nodded. Wu Lingzi sneered. "All right then, let's fulfill his wish. Who is the ugliest in the Vulture Palace?" "Of course it is Spirit Rabbit." Vulture sneered. "Not only is she a mute, she is also the ugliest person in the Vulture Palace. Speaking of which, she is also my cousin." "Ha ha ha." Wu Lingzi laughed. "Yang Dingtian wants marriage, right? Let's pick the ugliest mute for him. You go and find Spirit Rabbit, then bring her to Zhongjing, and marry Yang Dingtian." "Yes." Vulture's beautiful eyes flashed with a demonic light. In heaven, there was also hell. In New York, there was also a slum. In the Vulture Palace, in a cold and remote cave, there was an intense coughing sound. This kind of coughing was almost heart-wrenching. A withered old man with broken legs was lying on a pile of straw, coughing desperately. As he coughed, black blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Beside him, an ugly girl dressed in coarse cloth held back her tears and desperately stroked the old man's chest. Seeing him in so much pain, she wished she could take his place. After coughing for a few minutes, the old man finally stopped. The ugly girl held a bowl of honey water and placed it beside the old man's mouth. This old man was so thin that he was only skin and bones. His hair was sparse like weeds, snow white. His entire person was like a candle flame in a strong wind that could be extinguished at any time. He took a sip gently and looked at the ugly girl with infinite love. He said hoarsely, "I'm going to die. I'm going to die soon. I should be dying soon." As soon as these words came out, the ugly girl shook her head desperately, tears falling down continuously. I'm not willing to die like this." The old man's withered eyes could no longer shed tears. They were like a dry well, revealing infinite pain. He said, "If I die, what will you do? What will you do? My little rabbit, my little rabbit. Grand, grand." The ugly girl cried loudly and shouted with difficulty. The old man cried bitterly, but there were no tears. He sobbed and said, "After I die, what will my little rabbit do? What will I do? They will torture you to death. They are a group of beasts, a group of beasts." The ugly girl shook her head desperately and cried desperately. The old man cried and said, "Wu Lingzi harmed my parents in order to fight for the position of the Vulture Palace. I admit it. Because I was too outstanding, he crippled me and broke my legs. I admit it. My son was too outstanding. He killed my son and daughter-in-law. I admit it. They can't harm you anymore. I'll beg him. I'll beg him. Ask him to let you go. Let you go." The ugly girl hugged the old man desperately and cried desperately. "Ugly ghost. Are you there?" Outside, the voice of the vulture suddenly sounded. Immediately, the ugly girl trembled, and a trace of fear appeared in her eyes. There was also a trace of hatred. Since she was young, the vulture had been her nightmare. Since she was young, she had already lost count of how she had bullied and abused her. The vulture was a high and mighty princess, and although she, the Spirit Rabbit, was a true descendant of the Vulture Palace, she was even inferior to the lowest servant. Insulting, beating, whipping, cutting off her head, tying her body with a rope, throwing her into the black vulture's cave, and quickly lifting her up the moment before the black vulture ate her. These were all things that the vulture had done to her when she was young. It could be said that it was fortunate that she was ugly, otherwise, her bones would have already rotted away. To the Vulture Palace was heaven. To her, the Vulture Palace was hell, the hell of hell, an eternal nightmare. If not for the fact that she and her grandfather depended on each other, she would have died long ago. The Spirit Rabbit took a deep breath, messed up her hair, and walked out of the cave. Slap! The vulture directly slapped her. Immediately, the Spirit Rabbit felt dizzy and spat out blood from the corner of her mouth. She flew a few feet away and fell to the ground. Are you deaf? Are you deaf? The vulture fiercely pulled her ear with her sharp nails and said coldly, Why didn't you hear me when I called you? Why did you only come out now? The spirit rabbit did not say a word, because she was mute. The vulture tortured the spirit rabbit when she was young. For this, Lingbai could not bear it, and scolded her several times. Therefore, her relationship with her mother was not good at all. She looked down on Lingbai. However, when she grew up a little, she did not torture the spirit rabbit anymore, because she almost disdained to do so. When she grew older, she had a little sympathy for the spirit rabbit. Of course, it was only a little. Especially when she was with Yang Dingtian. Her heart would still surge with guilt towards the spirit rabbit. At this time, she and the spirit rabbit had not seen each other for almost a few years. This was the first time they had met. The reason why she hit the spirit rabbit was because she had transferred her anger towards Yang Dingtian to her. The vulture stepped forward, grabbed the spirit rabbit's neck and raised her face. Then she smiled and said, 7 or 8 years have passed and you have become uglier. Just right, just right. It's just right for you to marry Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian is only worthy of an ugly ghost like you. Then, the vulture directly grabbed her hair and dragged her out. He wanted to drag her directly to Zhongjing to marry Yang Dingtian. At this time, the spirit rabbit struggled desperately and wanted to run back into the cave. You still dare to resist? Are you rebelling? The vulture said coldly. Then, she kicked her to the ground and dragged her out by her hair. The spirit rabbit quickly took out a dagger from her waist and cut off her hair. Then, she quickly ran back into the cave. The vulture quickly chased after her. In the cave, the spirit rabbit hugged the old man tightly and shook her head in pain. The vulture covered her nose and stepped forward to grab the spirit rabbit's hair. She said coldly, "Today, you have to marry even if you don't want to." "What? Marry? Marry who?" the old man said with a trembling voice. "A lowly Yang Dingtian," the vulture said coldly. "He is not from the vulture palace." The old man's eyes lit up. "No, he is not," the vulture said in disgust. The old man said in surprise, "Okay, we will marry. For him, as long as the spirit rabbit could leave the hell of the vulture palace, nothing else mattered. It didn't even matter who she married. Even if she married a vicious person, it was better than staying in the vulture palace. Then the old man said to the vulture, "Little princess, you go out first. I will persuade the spirit rabbit and let her marry. If she doesn't agree, I will kill you." The vulture said and left. After the vulture went out, the old man said to the spirit rabbit, "Child, you have to marry. You have to leave this hell immediately. Otherwise, you will die, and it will be the most tragic death. Even if your face is ugly, it's useless. Your body is gradually maturing. Some bastards will definitely not let you off. You have to marry them." The spirit rabbit shook her head desperately and cried desperately. She hugged the old man tightly. The old man pulled out a dagger and placed it on his dry neck, saying, "If you don't marry, then I will die. Anyway, I have lived until now for you." Suddenly, the spirit rabbit did not dare to move. Her tears kept falling. 2 hours later, several women bathed the spirit rabbit and changed her into a red wedding dress. In a burst of ridicule, the spirit rabbit put on silk for the first time. Then, she rode on a black vulture and flew with the vulture to Zhongjing. A few hours later, the vulture and the spirit rabbit in the wedding dress landed in the North Mansion. The vulture palace agreed to Yang Dingtian's conditions. The Black Vulture army would withdraw from the South Central continent and marry Yang Dingtian in exchange for a ceasefire. However, they chose the ugliest woman in the Vulture Palace, the Spirit Rabbit. After landing in the North Mansion, the first sentence of the vulture was, "Yang Dingtian, we have married you according to your words. I have sent your new wife." Chapter 721. Yang Dingtian raised his head from behind the table and looked at Vulture in front of him. There was also a woman with a graceful figure. She was wearing a wedding dress and a headscarf. "Yang Dingtian, you said that as long as the Black Vulture Legion retreated to the Vulture Palace and the Vulture Palace married you, you would stop the war. Does this still count?" Vulture asked. Yang Dingtian replied, "I always keep my word." Vulture said, But you didn't specify who the woman from the Vulture Palace would be who would marry you, right? And you didn't state that the person who would marry you would be me, right? Yang Dingtian was silent for a moment, then nodded and said, but if the Vulture Palace dares to tease me in this regard and randomly find a woman to marry me, I will let you see my anger. Vulture laughed and said, of course we won't randomly find a woman. The one we chose to marry you is the true descendant of the Vulture Palace, my dear cousin Spirit Rabbit. From today onwards, she will be your new wife. Are you looking forward to seeing her appearance? Then, Vulture's beautiful eyes emitted a demonic light as she stared at Yang Dingtian's face. Her hand grabbed Spirit Rabbit's headscarf, ready to tear it off at any time. She wouldn't miss this scene. She was looking forward to it. The pain of others was her joy. She was looking forward to seeing Yang Dingtian's painful expression when he saw the ugly Spirit Rabbit. She was looking forward to seeing it. Are your eyes wide open? Now I'll show you. The Spirit Vulture suddenly tugged. The headscarf fell, revealing Spirit Rabbit's ugly face. Yang Dingtian's eyes suddenly shrank, and he burst out with anger. But then, he saw the fear and uneasiness in the woman's eyes. She was like a little beast that had just escaped from hell. She didn't even dare to look at Yang Dingtian. Her hands were clenched into fists so tightly that even her veins were popping out. Then, Yang Dingtian's eyes widened again, from anger to gentleness. He knew this girl. Ling Bai had spent too much time in the Taboo Continent's illusory realm. She had told him all the interesting things that she had encountered. Most of it was about this girl called Spirit Rabbit. There was one thing that she had said at least 10 times. That was, when Ling Bai's black vulture was young, it also ate human flesh like other people. Of course, Ling Bai was unwilling, so she forbade it from eating human flesh. He gave it food, raw materials, fruits, and beef and mutton. At that time, Black Vulture was still very young. Of course, he was unwilling. After being hungry for a few days, he secretly ran away from home. At that time it was still young. After running out, it couldn't find anything to eat. Thus he went into a cave and slept. As they slept, they became dehydrated and starved to death. At that time, the Spirit Rabbit, which was also very small, was looking for food all over the mountains to feed itself and its grandfather. Of course, he found this dying black vulture. Then, she used the porridge that she cooked herself to revive it. As for the black vulture's problem of being picky about food, it had also completely corrected itself. Eating the Spirit Rabbit's porridge every day, it was so happy that it forgot about home. However, the food that the Spirit Rabbit found every day was enough to feed itself and its grandfather. How could it afford to feed the little black vulture? Thus it was hungry every 2 to 3 days. But even so, she did not stop giving the black vulture porridge. If Ling Bai had not found the black vulture, this silly thing would have been eating for free with the Spirit Rabbit. It would probably starve the little Spirit Rabbit to death. From then on, Ling Bai came into contact with the pitiful Spirit Rabbit. Although she did not have a good time, she did not have any problems surviving. Thus, she tried her best to help the Spirit Rabbit and her grandfather. However, this kind of help did not bring any luck to the Spirit Rabbit. Instead, it brought misfortune. At that time, although Vulture did not like her mother, when she saw that Ling Bai treated the Spirit Rabbit better than her, she came to torture the Spirit Rabbit every 2 to 3 days. Ling Bai wanted to stop her, but her status in the Vulture Palace was far inferior to the vulture, who was still a little girl, even though she was her daughter. Therefore, she did not dare to help the Spirit Rabbit openly. She could only secretly bring food to her. From then on, Ling Bai disliked Vulture very much. Although she was her own flesh and blood, she was more willing to see the Spirit Rabbit as her daughter. Therefore, although Ling Bai was very stupid, she still protected a pitiful life. Ling Bai even said that under her influence, Lingxi once said that the people in the Vulture Palace should not bully the pitiful Spirit Rabbit anymore. Yang Dingtian walked over and held the Spirit Rabbit's slightly rough hand, saying gently, "From now on, no one can bully you anymore." Then, he held her hand and walked towards the back of the castle. Not seeing the scene that she was looking forward to and not seeing Yang Dingtian's pained expression, Vulture was furious and immediately said without thinking, "Yang Dingtian, Are you satisfied with the new wife that we have made for you? She is so ugly. She is a match made in heaven with you. Junwoo, stay behind and talk to her about the ceasefire. Yang Dingtian said. After talking, ask her to get lost immediately. Then, wash the place where she stood with boiling water. Also, she sat on my table yesterday. Dig out all the places where she sat. Yes, Yin Junwoo said. Suddenly, a golden light flashed in front of Vulture's eyes, and she almost fainted. This was the first time that Yang Dingtian used such a vicious tone. In the magnificent room, Yang Dingtian sat in front of the spirit rabbit. I know you. Yang Dingtian smiled and said, you can talk, but you pretend to be mute. Once these words were said, the spirit rabbit trembled and revealed a frightened look. Also, you are very beautiful. When you were very young, your beauty shocked the entire Vulture Palace. But when you were 6 years old, you knew how to protect yourself. You let your grandfather turn you ugly. Yang Dingtian said. Suddenly, the spirit rabbit revealed a look of disbelief. How could it be? No one knew about this secret. How could she know? At that time on the surface, you became ugly because you ate a strange poisonous mushroom. Yang Dingtian said. And this mushroom was deliberately picked by you. And to make yourself ugly, you ate this mushroom every day. But I don't have this ugly mushroom here. At this time, the spirit rabbit's whole body was curled up. Her eyes were full of fear and vigilance when she looked at Yang Dingtian. You even secretly practiced martial arts. Although you were very talented, you lacked elixirs and a place to practice. You lacked everything, so your cultivation was not as good as Vulture's. Yang Dingtian said. Not only that, you also searched all the mountains in the Vulture Palace, trying to cure your grandfather. The spirit rabbit breathed heavily. Suddenly, she raised her head and stared at Yang Dingtian with her eyes wide open. She said, who are you? You will harm me? Will you harm my grandfather? Yang Dingtian did not answer. He just gently stroked her neck with his hand. The spirit rabbit in front of him was still too young. But if she could really restore her grandfather's strength, then perhaps she would be a good chess piece to usurp the Vulture Palace. Although the spirit rabbit's grandfather was a generation younger than Wuxia, he was the true heir of the Vulture Palace, just like his father. At this time, there was a sudden knock on the door. Suddenly, the spirit rabbit's body trembled violently, and all the hair on her body stood up. It was as if she was really a little rabbit in the wild. Even the slightest movement could make her incomparably alert. Come in, the door is not closed. Yang Dingtian said. Opening the door, the beautiful Ling Bai came in. The moment she saw the spirit rabbit, she was stunned. The spirit rabbit's eyes suddenly opened wide, revealing an unbelievable surprise. Ling Bai rushed in and directly hugged the spirit rabbit's little body. She cried with joy, Little rabbit, you're not dead. That's great, that's great. Hearing this, Yang Dingtian's heart softened slightly, and then he left. After the negotiation with Yin Junwoo, Vulture left with humiliation. Yang Dingtian immediately ordered the negotiation team, led by Dongfang Minmi, to send an ultimatum to the forces of Zhongzhou State. They could start the fourth negotiation immediately, which was also the last negotiation. Or they could completely close the door of the negotiation. Moreover, they only gave the leaders of Zhongzhou State 24 hours to think. Suddenly, the ultimatum completely frightened the leaders of Zhongzhou State. They immediately gathered together and held a closed-door meeting. Soon they reached a consensus. That was, they resolutely disagreed with the 3 conditions of the Council of Light. But they did not dare to refuse the negotiation. No one was willing to say no to the Council of Light. The meeting lasted for 4 to 6 hours, but there was no result, and it was impossible for there to be a result. They neither agreed nor dared to turn hostile. Therefore, these leaders of Zhongzhou State immediately ran to the South Mansion and asked the Vulture Palace and the Netherworld Sea for help. Here, they got the most exciting answer they could think of. The ancestor of the Vulture Palace must have agreed to fight Yang Dingtian to the end and completely destroy all the military forces of the Council of Light in Zhongzhou State. Not only that, the representative of the Vulture Palace also said that the Netherworld Sea also decided to help. They would never sit by and watch young Dingtian be arrogant. The ancestor of Wolingzi went to the Netherworld Sea twice in person, and finally persuaded sect master Wolingzi to fight young Dingtian. Moreover, the representative of the Vulture Palace told the leaders of Zhongzhou State. They had already investigated and found out that young Dingtian was simply bluffing. Those missiles were all fake, and they were all empty. Therefore, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to destroy the Council of Light. Moreover, the masters of the Vulture Palace also asked all the forces of Zhongzhou State to send out troops to attack young Dingtian from behind. After conquering the whole of Zhongzhou State, the Vulture Palace would only take the South Zhongzhou State and leave nothing behind. Suddenly, the leaders of the forces of Zhongzhou State felt their blood boil. However, they did not dare to send out troops to attack young Dingtian's army from behind. They would not dare to do so even if they were given 10 guts. Therefore, they tried every possible way to refuse. Therefore, the representative of the Vulture Palace said that they should sign a secret agreement. The leaders of Zhongzhou State did not need to send out troops. When the Vulture Palace and the Netherworld Sea completely destroyed the face-to-face parliament, they would send out troops symbolically and take away all the territories of the Council of Light. However, these leaders of Zhongzhou State had always been sending themselves to their deaths. You can eat the meat, and I'll do it. They didn't even dare to sign such a symbolic agreement. They thought, even though it's impossible, what if the spiritual Vulture Palace screws me over? Therefore, the representative of the Vulture Palace was angry. Well said. You guys only want to eat meat, and don't want to be beaten. You want me and young Dingtian to fight to the death, while you snatch the territories from behind? How can there be such an easy thing? Therefore, they threatened not to negotiate with young Dingtian. The leaders of Zhongzhou State were frightened again. In the end, the leaders of Zhongzhou State said that if they wanted to sign this secret agreement, they could ally with the Vulture Palace and attack young Dingtian together. However, they had to see the Vulture Palace send out troops and confirm the real war before they could sign it. Obviously, these leaders of Zhongzhou State were smart. They would not act without seeing the hair. Although the representative of the Vulture Palace was very unhappy, he still agreed after hesitating for a while. Then, on behalf of the Vulture Palace, he invited these leaders of Zhongzhou State to South Zhongzhou State to participate in the swearing-in ceremony of the 200,000 Black Vulture Corps. The moment the 200,000 Black Vulture Corps took off and rushed to Zhongzhou State, the moment the real war started, they would sign the secret agreement. The leaders of Zhongzhou State, who had no choice, agreed. Then, under the leadership of the representative of the Vulture Palace, hundreds of leaders of Zhongzhou State came to the camp of the Vulture Palace in South Zhongzhou State. A few hours later, the blood-boiling swearing-in ceremony began. 200,000 soldiers, a total of 200,000 Black Vulture Corps. They took off in rows and finally covered the sky for hundreds of miles above their heads. Even the sun could not shine down on the whole city. It was really covering the sky and the sun. Heroic military music and impassioned proclamations. There were also the sounds of countless Black Vulture knights fighting to the death. In the end, 200,000 Black Vultures covered the sky and the earth and headed for Zhongzhou State. The leaders of Zhongzhou State were also excited by this monstrous scene. Let's kill young Dingtian. Yes, instead of waiting for death, it's better to fight with all our might. Yes, let's fight young Dingtian to the end. Let's go back and gather the army. If we add up our army, there will be at least 10 million of them. We will be able to crush young Dingtian to death. Yes, Zhongzhou State belongs to the people of Zhongzhou State. Young Dingtian, get out of here. Council of Light, get out of here. Fight, fight, fight. Fight to the end. Then, in this impassioned atmosphere, the leaders of Zhongzhou State signed the secret agreement with the representative of the Vulture Palace, Ling Chuzi. All the leaders used their profound energy to sign their names. Finally, when it was Ling Chuzi's turn to sign, he directly stamped a seal. It was the seal of Wu Yuming from the South Mansion. Of course, the leaders of Zhongzhou State did not care about this. Then, with the secret agreement in his arms, Ling Chuzi directly flew to the Black Vulture and flew toward Zhongjing. The leaders of Zhongzhou State were stunned, then said, Palace Master Ling Chuzi is going to the battlefield to fight young Dingtian to the death. I heard that ancestor Wulingzi is also going to Zhongjing to kill young Dingtian. Yes, young Dingtian is doomed this time, ha 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 ha. Then let's go back to our territory and summon the army. Gather 10 million, 20 million, and kill young Dingtian's army. Yes, let's go. Then, all the leaders of Zhongzhou state got up with their blood boiling. They were about to get on the winged cavalry and return to their territory. Suddenly, at this moment, several senior leaders of the Vulture Palace in the sky blew some strange horn. Then the 200,000 Black Vulture troops neatly turned around in the air. After hovering in the air for a while, they covered the sky and flew toward the south. Why are they flying toward the south? Zhongjing is in the north. They should be going to annihilate the Council of Light fleet on the southern sea. Yes, kill the nearest enemy first, then kill the Council of Light bastards in Zhongjing. Then, everyone looked up at the sky and saw that the dark clouds were getting farther and farther away. After a long time, someone said, "They seem to be flying a bit far. They should be at the seaside. Why aren't they swooping down to attack?" No one answered. The 200,000 Black Vulture troops kept flying toward the Vulture Palace in the southern barbarian continent, farther and farther away. Finally, they completely disappeared into the dark clouds in the sky. Everyone suddenly felt that the air was very cold. Finally, someone said, They can't have all retreated to the Vulture Palace, right? I don't think so. A leader said, I saw the secret agreement clearly just now. They are irreconcilable with young Dingtian, and will fight to the end. Finally, someone remembered and said, But I seem to remember that the seal at the end of the secret agreement was Wu Yoming's seal, not the Vulture Palace's. After almost a month of serialization in the newspaper, the whole world now knew that Wu Yuming was one of the adopted sons of one Wentian of the Temple of Annihilation and one of the great devils of the evil ways. Moreover, no one doubted this conclusion. This was because every word in the newspaper was backed by absolute evidence. It was absolutely true and authoritative. Wu Yuming was one of the young masters of the evil ways. This was a fact that could not be changed. They signed a secret agreement with Wu Yuming. This was a public rebellion in evil ways. Then they thought of a very, very, very scary thing. Have we been sold by the Vulture Palace? Finally, someone said this nightmarish fact. No one answered him. No one was willing to face this terrible truth. Then, the entire ground suddenly began to tremble. A deafening sound came from afar. It was the fleet of the Council of Light. Thousands of ships began to bombard the coastal defense line of South Zhongzhou. Thousands of warships and tens of thousands of cannons fired wildly. Almost in an instant, the defense line on the shore was instantly reduced to dust. The soldiers on it were instantly smashed into pieces. Countless cannonballs rained down like a storm of steel. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Then countless flying mounts rose from the ships on the sea and whistled toward South Zhongzhou. Countless soldiers, team by team, landed on the beach. Suddenly, many of the leaders of Zhongzhou spat out a mouthful of blood. Wulingzi, fuck you. 2 hours later, Yang Dingtian called for a meeting of the Tiando League. He took out the secret agreement signed by the leaders of Zhongzhou and Wu Yuming and publicly announced that some of the vassals of Zhongzhou had colluded with young master Wu Yuming of evil ways and tried to overthrow the Tiando League in Zhongzhou. Their crimes were unforgivable. Yang Dingtian, as the master of the Tiando League and the master of the Council of Light, officially gave the order. Gather all the military forces of the East Continent, North Zhongzhou, West Continent, and Yingzhou to completely eliminate the rebellion. Then millions of troops that had long been prepared. Like a tide, they surged into South Zhongzhou and Great Zhongzhou. The millions of troops that were originally stationed in Great Zhongzhou attacked crazily, sweeping down from the north to the south. Hundreds of thousands of air troops suddenly rose into the sky and flew toward all the rebel territories in Zhongzhou. Moreover, there was a small announcement. The daughter of the Vulture Palace, the Golden Spirit Rabbit, was officially married to Yang Dingtian, the master of the Council of Light. Suddenly, all the leaders of Zhongzhou vomited blood. Fuck you, Wulingzi. Chapter 722. What happened next could not be considered a war at all. All the territories of the leaders of Zhongzhou state added up were more than 2 west continents. The population was 5 or 6 west continents. And the army was more than tens of millions. However, they had lost all their morale. The moment they were completely betrayed by the Vulture Palace, the leaders of Zhongzhou state had completely lost all their fighting spirit. Therefore, the so-called War of Zhongzhou state was like boiling water splashed on snow, melting in an instant. When the 5 armies of the Council of Light entered Zhongzhou state from all directions, they almost did not encounter any decent resistance. All the troops collapsed at the first touch. After these troops surrendered, they did not even change their clothes and flags. They directly picked up their weapons and charged all the way with the army of the Council of Light. For the army of Zhongzhou state, there was no psychological barrier to surrendering to Yang Dingtian at all. The middle and low-level armies in this world were Yang Dingtian's most solid supporters. Therefore, the army of the Council of Light increased as they fought all the way. From 5 million, it increased to 10 million, and then to 20 million. The only one who was unhappy should be Song Xiao, the commander-in-chief of this war of Zhongzhou state. Damn it! He was ready to raise his butcher's knife and wash Zhongzhou state with blood. As a result, the other party surrendered before he raised his knife. What was even more outrageous was that as soon as his army arrived in front of their city, the city gate opened without saying a word. Then a group of guides came out and took him directly into the city. That was not all. The most outrageous thing was, before he arrived in the city, all the troops had gathered outside the city. At first, Song Xiao was ecstatic, thinking that there was a great war to fight. As soon as he arrived, the neat army of Zhongzhou state immediately shouted excitedly, "Long live the Council of Light! Long live Yang Dingtian!" Then, he could not wait to change the flag of the territory to the flag of the Council of Light. This was not the most outrageous thing. In the end, he was still hundreds of miles away from a territory to be attacked. In the end, the army in the other party's territory rushed right in front of them. From their flags to their armor and badges, they changed everything to the Council of Light. This caused many of the Council of Light's generals to feel extremely depressed. You guys are the ones leading the way. Not only did you guys prepare your own flags and weapons, you even prepared your own clothes and rations. This is too much. Previously, Song Xiao had been holding back his anger, wanting to fight a great battle. Hence, he had always been at the forefront. Half a month later, he left the front line. He couldn't stand the excitement anymore. What kind of war was this? They were simply taking everything in. With regards to this situation, Yang Dingtian had never expected it. It was only at this moment that everyone fully understood the power of the public opinion of the chaos times. This was truly the will of the people. Unknowingly, he had won the hearts of all the middle and low-level martial artists and soldiers in Zhongzhou state. Yang Dingtian did not have a good reputation among the people. He had done many things that crossed the line. However, his image was welcomed by the soldiers like never before. In order to save his fiancée, he dared to go to the territory of evil ways. After being pushed down by Duge Fengwu, he actually dared to acknowledge Duge Xiao as his father-in-law. In short, all the stains on Yang Dingtian were things that all the soldiers yearned for. They wanted him to become a person of flesh and blood. He would not be like Wu Yuming, who was always illusory and high above. Of course, in the eyes of the higher-ups of Zhongzhou state, Yang Dingtian and Wu Yuming were the exact opposite. Most of the leaders of Zhongzhou state did not have a good impression of Yang Dingtian. The reason was very simple. It was because Yang Dingtian wanted to touch their lifeblood and take away their army and territory. In the face of such a situation, countless Zhongzhou state troops changed sides. Yang Dingtian, who was supposed to be idle, suddenly became extremely busy. He could not disappoint the hearts of these Zhongzhou state troops. They definitely did not change sides because they were afraid of death. They changed sides because they truly yearned for and agreed with him. Such an army would be the backbone of the future Doomsday War and resist evil ways. Therefore, in the end, it was basically Yang Dingtian, who went to different cities every day to take over different armies. When he met with countless soldiers, He did not give any speeches. He just went to talk to the generals and representatives of these defected armies. In the end, the entire war of Zhongzhou state was completely anticlimactic at the beginning, because there was almost no decent war. In the end, Yang Dingtian alone was not enough to take over these cities. The leaders of the Council of Light were all working round the clock. The entire Council of Light did not fully estimate this situation. Therefore, the specific division of administrative areas, the allocation of officials, the land policy, and other matters had not really started yet. Therefore, they had to urgently transfer hundreds of thousands of people from the West Continent to the reorganization of Zhongzhou state. Tang Buizhao and Song Lihua once again entered into an inhuman work. The so-called reorganization before was just scratching an itch. They could only issue orders to the various leaders and vassals. They could not even really supervise the execution of the orders. In total, he had only done two things. The first was the division of defense areas. The second was the establishment of the Zhongzhou State Army. As a result, the duel began before the second thing was completed, because they were not optimistic about Yang Dingtian. The leaders of the forces of Zhongzhou State all turned to Yang Dingtian, causing the construction of the defense areas and the Zhongzhou State Army to be directly stopped. Now the Council of Light directly took over a complete Zhongzhou state. All the forces that did not side with the Council of Light, all the vassals were wiped out. A huge power vacuum appeared in the entire Zhongzhou state in an instant. The Council of Light had many discussions and finally decided. All the first and second tier forces of the Taiyando League and forces with martial arts sect attributes would still be preserved. However, a large number of territories would be reduced and replaced with the shares of the Central Chamber of Commerce of the Taiyando League and the gold shares of the Taiyando League. All the purely territorial forces with vassals would be abolished and transformed into provinces, states, and counties. The Council of Light would directly send civil and military officials to govern. All the territories obtained from the rebellious vassals would be distributed to the civilians according to the way of the southwest mainland, and all the serfs would be liberated. The Taiyando League would unify the harvest, business tax, and agricultural tax. All the strategic resources in the territories would be unified and owned by the Taiyando League. In short, this was an extremely tedious work. It would take hundreds of thousands, millions, tens of millions of people, and a few years to completely reorganize it. However, the Taiyando League's order to reorganize Zhongzhou state had just been issued. The entire Zhongzhou state was completely boiling, especially the serfs and civilians at the bottom. They instantly became the propertied class with land. As for the people in the cities, the benefits were not so great, but at least they were not harmed and were still the same as before. Influenced by the people of Zhongzhou state and intimidated by the power of the Council of Light, they also raised both hands in approval. Another group of people who benefited were the middle and low-level soldiers of Zhongzhou state, the warriors. Their salaries, fields, and houses were almost several times higher than before. The bottom-level army of Zhongzhou state was the same as the army of West Continent before. It was all because their families were poor and could not support them, so they sent the strong and healthy to the vassals to serve as soldiers and receive a meager salary, mainly to eat their fill. Today, the army of the Council of Light completely adopted the meritorious service system. The more meritorious service accumulated, the more generous the treatment. Moreover, the promotion channel was incomparably smooth. Even the son of a serf could be a staff leader, commander, or even general. It was not like before, when all the officers were controlled by the children of the vassals in the territory. Even a pig could be a commander. Therefore, as soon as the rectification edict of the Council of Light came out, those troops and people in the remote territories and cities of Zhongzhou state could not wait any longer. When they were still thousands of miles away from the Council of Light army, they changed the flags of the cities themselves. They could not wait to raise the flags of the Council of Light in all the towns and cities. They directly arrested the families and minions of the vassals, sealed all the accounts, and sealed all the accounts in boxes, waiting for the people of the Council of Light to come and take them. Therefore, it was a huge war of Zhongzhou state. In less than half a month, the victory had been completely decided. In less than 2 months, it was completely over. Of course, the real tedious rectification work had just begun. As for the leaders and vassals of Zhongzhou state, they could have used their territories to exchange for shares of the Tiando League's Central Chamber of Commerce and the gold accounts. Now they could not even exchange these. However, the Council of Light did not completely exterminate them. They let the families of the vassals enter various cities with a large sum of money and quietly live there. The general policy of the Council of Light was to take back the territories and the army. However, they could let the vassals keep a larger proportion of their property, so that their families could maintain a good life. Of course, even under such circumstances, it was inevitable to kill people. Among them, Wu Yoming's hardcore supporters, who were complete enemies of the Council of Light, could not be let off. They were completely destroyed mentally and physically. Not only that, but those who had done many evil things in the territories before would also be imprisoned or executed according to the laws of the Tiando League. Therefore, although the Council of Light had been relatively lenient, they still killed a large number of people. They killed until rivers of blood flowed in the execution ground of Zhongjing. As for the leaders of the fence-sitters, their Xian meridians were locked, and they were half-monitored. They were half-free and half under house arrest. As for the leaders of the first-tier and second-tier martial arts forces of the Tiando League, they had all replaced their leaders, and the Tiando League publicly appointed them. The original leaders were either put under house arrest or imprisoned. In short, the Council of Light was very cautious against those with high cultivation, and would not easily kill them. Even so, there were still countless leaders and vassals who fled and went into exile. However, the entire chaotic world now belonged to the Council of Light. Even if they wanted to go into exile, they could not find a place to go. Therefore, they all chose a place, and that was the Dongli grassland. Some leaders ignored their old grudges and went into exile in the southern barbarian continent. But no matter what, after this so-called Great War of the Central Continent, Yang Dingtian's Council of Light truly unified the entire chaotic world, the entire human countries for the first time. The outcome of the Great War of the Central Continent was countless times better than expected. At almost the smallest price, the smallest number of casualties, those cities and lands that contain the most essence of humanity were conquered. Just from this point alone, Yang Dingtian's achievements had already surpassed the past leaders of the hidden sect, including Nihility Piaoling. Because no leader of the hidden sect, no leader of the Tiando League, had truly unified the chaotic world, had truly gathered all the fighting forces of the chaotic world, and had not united everyone in the chaotic world. But Yang Dingtian had done it. He had truly unified the entire human countries. And from start to finish, it had only taken slightly more than 3 years. Among them, although his personal martial arts cultivation had played a crucial role in some key points, from the entire process of unifying the chaotic world, the effect of his personal martial arts cultivation was next to nothing. The only reason he had truly accomplished this great task was one word: Tao. A just cause enjoys abundant support, while an unjust cause finds little support. Using the greatest effort, the greatest tolerance, to obtain the support of the greatest number of people, to unite the majority of people. Therefore, from Qin Huayu, Zhu Hongxue Song Shao, Qin Wanchou, Qiu Wanjie, Yun Kalin, Zhou Qingqi, and countless others, they had all turned from enemies to comrades. Of course, there was also a group of people that Yang Dingtian had never been able to successfully turn from enemies to comrades. For example, the Vulture Palace, or the Netherworld Sea. Within these few months, Yang Dingtian's Council of Light had always entered the craziest and busiest state. Countless people were working hard to reorganize the central continent. As for Ling Wu, within these few months, she had constantly distanced herself from the central continent, getting further and further away. She steered a small crystal ship and searched island by island to find traces of Wu Yuming. By the time the central continent had started the war, and the Council of Light had entered the southern middle continent, she was already 30,000 miles away from the southern middle continent. At this moment, it had already been 100 days since she had left the central continent to search for Wu Yuming. At this moment, she was already more than 70,000 miles away from the human countries. At this moment, the sea region that she had entered could no longer be found on the map. Furthermore, the clean water, food, and elixirs that she had brought were almost used up. However, she still hadn't given up. She also wouldn't give up. At the instant Wu Yuming was defeated, the entire world had given up on Wu Yuming. This included the Netherworld Sea, the Vulture Palace, and even his wife the Vulture. It was just like how the entire world had given up on Ling Wu when she had left Yangdingtian. The words that Wu Yuming had said to her had been engraved in her heart until now. You have to finish the path that you've chosen, even if you have to kneel down. Otherwise you'll be worthless. Before the duel, how glorious was Wu Yuming? He was only one step away from the pinnacle of the entire world. Almost the entire world was prostrating at his feet. At the moment of his defeat, he had instantly lost everything. Everyone could abandon Wu Yuming, but Ling Wu couldn't. Because once she abandoned Wu Yuming, it was equivalent to abandoning herself. Therefore, she would continue to search until Wu Yuming's death. In this unfamiliar sea region, Ling Wu raised her head to take a look. It was a rotting island with an overwhelming stench. She then looked inside the ship. The water was all gone, the food was all gone, and the elixirs were all gone. If she still couldn't find Wu Yuming on this island, then she wouldn't leave either. She would die on this rotting island. Chapter 723. This was a rotten island. From top to bottom, from inside to outside, everything was rotten. Every step she took was as disgusting as a puddle of mud. The entire island emitted an unbearable stench. There were all kinds of strange things in the boundless universe. She really didn't know how such an island was formed. Furthermore, it only had one color. After being dried by the sun, the thick blood had a nearly jet-black color. Just like this, Ling Wu walked towards the island one step at a time. That small crystal-powered boat of hers was being pushed by the waves and gradually drifted away. She didn't care about it at all. The disgusting mud on the island was getting deeper and deeper. It was almost buried up to her thighs. She continued to walk blindly towards the inside. She continued to walk. That's right, she was walking blindly. When she first left the central continent, she still held on to hope to find Wu Yuming. 10 days, 20 days, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. After more than 100 days, she had actually almost given up hope. Of course, giving up hope wasn't equivalent to giving up on searching. She continued to search numbly like this. Perhaps she wasn't looking for Wu Yuming anymore. Instead, she was persevering in a kind of suffering. Once she gave up, it would be equivalent to betraying herself. Just like how she couldn't turn back from the moment she left Yang Dingtian's side. Once she turned back, it would be equivalent to betraying herself. The deeper she looked, the deeper she went. The disgusting mud of blood gradually buried her thighs, her waist, her chest, and her throat. If she took another step forward, her mouth, nose, and eyes would be completely buried. Then she would stop. She would die. When she was very young, she had heard a story told by her mother. It was said that there was a kind of bird that didn't have legs. Therefore, it could only fly continuously. When it stopped flying, it would die. She didn't know when it started, but Ling Wu felt that she was like this legless bird. She couldn't find sustenance or a place to land. Just like that, she kept flying until she died. Alright, then I'll die like this. Goodbye, Yang Dingtian. Ling Wu took a step forward and waited for the disgusting mud of blood to drown her eyes in life. However, after she took a step forward, not only did she not continue to go offline, she floated up instead. Because she seemed to have stepped on something. At this moment, she was already numb and unable to react. After stepping on it, she even used all her strength to press down. Then with a sudden thought, he stretched out his hand, grabbed that thing, and pulled it out. This was a person. Oh no, this is a ghost. Because he no longer looked like a human from head to toe. His entire body was rotting. In fact, it was even more rotting than the entire island. It was extremely disgusting and smelly. He was motionless, so he should be dead. Ling Wu loosened her grip, and it sank down just like that, remaining motionless. However, his eyes seemed to be open, but they were covered by blood. Ling Wu extended her hand to wipe away the blood and mud in his eyes. Immediately, a pair of eyes that were like a dry well was revealed. They were deep and profound, yet there wasn't any radiance or focal distance. His face could no longer be seen. It was all rotten. Only a pair of eyes that looked like dried wells were still intact. Seeing that he was about to sink completely, Ling Wu lifted him up once again, allowing him to float above the disgusting bloody mud. However, he still remained motionless and continued to sink. Ling Wu lifted him up once again. However, he sank down again very quickly and remained motionless. "Are you dead?" Ling Wu asked. "I'm dead." That person replied. "If you're dead, why can you still speak?" Ling Wu asked. "Even if I'm dead, I can still speak." That person replied. Even when he was speaking, his mouth didn't move at all. His eyes didn't move at all as well. Ling Wu looked at him for a while and said, "Since you're dead, then I'm dead too. Let's die together." Ling Wu laid down beside him and sank down together with him. Finally, that person's eyes moved as he said, "You don't have to die. You're already dead. I'm worthless in this world. There's no meaning in living anymore." Ling Wu said. That person said, "You can go and find the person you love. You can go and find Yang Dingtian." Ling Wu said, "I won't go. Back then, I didn't go to Cloud Heaven City to look for him. Now I won't go to the central capital to look for him." That person looked over and said, "Do you love him?" Ling Wu was silent for a moment before she said, "I'll only love one person in this lifetime. I can only love one person. It's not that I'm loyal and faithful, but once I change my feelings, all of my actions will become laughable and shameful. Only by loving him can I be justified in my actions. Only by loving him can I maintain the pride in my heart." That person said, "Then go and find him. As long as you apologize that I'm late, he'll forgive you. He will forgive you. I know him very well." Ling Wu shook her head and said, "If I go and find him now, I'll lose even my last trace of dignity. That's even more painful than death." That person said, "No, you're wrong to think this way. The reason why you became strangers with him is because there's a problem with your perception. You think that you're righteous and correct. In fact, you're wrong. Yang Dingtian is the correct one." Ling Wu trembled as she looked at him and said, "But I've always been following you. If I'm wrong, then you're also wrong." "No, to me you can't use wrong and correct to describe me." That person said, "If you insist on using a word to describe me, then it would be righteous and evil. Little Wu, everything that I've done in the past has been to deceive you. Yang Dingtian is righteous. Everything that he's done is for the sake of saving this world. However, I'm evil. Everything that I've done is for the sake of destroying this world. I'm a person of evil ways. I'm the adopted son of the demon king Wentian." This person was naturally Wu Yuming. Wu Yuming, who had been missing for more than 100 days. After telling the truth, Wu Yuming looked at Ling Wu and said, "Why aren't you surprised?" Ling Wu was silent for a moment before she said, "I want to surprise myself. But I don't know why. But I'm unable to be surprised in my heart. Perhaps I've long known this truth in my heart. It's just that I've been constantly hypnotizing myself all this while." Wu Yuming said, "Haven't you always wanted to stand on the side of righteousness?" Ling Wu smiled sadly and said, "It's already at this point in time. There's no need to deceive myself anymore. Perhaps righteousness is just an excuse for me. An excuse that allows me to righteously go against him. Since I can't obtain any dignity from him, I'll use another method to obtain weight. Even if it's hatred." "You're really foolish." Wu Yuming sighed and said, "He's never thought of hurting your self-esteem at all. He didn't do it on purpose." Ling Wu said, "It's this kind of unintentional that hurt me the most. It made me feel that I'm so lowly, and I wanted to be so different from the rest." Immediately, Wu Yuming fell into silence. Ling Wu said, "Did you choose this place? It's so far away." Wu Yuming said, "That's right. Back then, after I was defeated, my soul was instantly destroyed. After that, I wore the demonic spirit mist cloak and blinked aimlessly. Blinked, blinked, blinked. I didn't know where I was going at all. I couldn't find my destination either. Therefore I finally found a target. That was to find a place to die, the best place. After that, I found this place. This place isn't bad. Ling Wu said. It's not bad, right? Wu Yuming smiled and said, after I found this place, my profound energy had just been exhausted. After that, I just laid here and watched myself rot day by day. This kind of feeling is very blissful. However, what's not blissful is that I can't die no matter what. I've been waiting for my death every day. Why haven't I died yet? Ling Wu said, why must you die? You've only lost once. Wu Yuming smiled and said, there's a kind of person who can lose many times in a battle. He doesn't care about winning or losing. For example, Yang Dingtian. No matter how many times he loses, even if he dies, there will still be many people who love him and remember him. However, there's a kind of person who wants to win all the time. Even if he loses once, it means that he has nothing and it means death. And I'm this kind of person. Ling Wu said, when my mother was young, she once told me a story. She said that there's a kind of footless bird that flies for its entire life. As long as it lands once, it will die. Wu Yuming said, I'm the real footless bird. Because I don't have any foothold, I shouldn't exist in this world. Since the moment I was born, I only existed for one person. Only by defeating him completely and eliminating him can I truly become a person and truly stand on the ground. Otherwise, I'll always be illusory. Of course, perhaps I've always been illusory. Is that person Yang Dingtian? Ling Wu asked. It's not important who he is. When I was born, Yang Dingtian hadn't been born yet. Even his parents hadn't been born yet. Even his grandparents hadn't been born yet. Wu Yuming said, I'm a flaw, a cheating device of the demon king Wentian. The reason why he created me was to prove one thing. Under the circumstances of cheating with all his might, whether the spokesperson chosen by God could be defeated, and whether the so-called fate could be broken. I've already cheated so badly. Before he was born, I was already very strong. Even now, I'm 10 times stronger than him. However, I still failed. This proves that everything is predestined. Everything I do is futile, and my existence is meaningless. Ling Wu was silent for a moment before she said, I kind of understand now. You exist for the sake of proving one thing. Now that the result is out, you've lost all meaning. Then I'd like to ask, other than this matter, do you have any other reason to continue living? You don't want me to die? Wu Yuming asked. I don't know. Ling Wu said, I only know that as long as you die, I'll definitely die with you. Because when I lost my love and dignity, I yearned for your loneliness. Wu Yuming smiled faintly and said, all right then, let's die together. It's pretty good to die in this place, where no one will ever discover us. After that, the two of them lay quietly in the bloody mud and gradually sank down, waiting for the arrival of death. Merry Christmas. Although I'm not a homosexual, and don't care about this holiday, it's still okay to find a reason to be merry. Chapter 724. Just like that, Wu Yuming and Ling Wu lay motionlessly on the rotten island, waiting for the arrival of death day by day. Yang Dingtian still knew nothing about the matter regarding Ling Wu and Wu Yuming. He was still extremely busy every day. The entire chaotic world had basically been unified. Next, other than fully preparing for the world extermination war, the next strategic target was the Vulture Palace. The Netherworld Sea was purely based on martial strength. It didn't seem to have any astonishing military strength. As for the Black Vulture Core in the Vulture Palace, Yang Dingtian was almost determined to obtain it. However, now was the crucial moment to reorganize the central continent. Yang Dingtian didn't wish for side issues to crop up. Therefore, the war definitely couldn't be fought. He still had to use the old method of coercion and bribery. The first step was to rescue Ling Xuanji, the grandfather of Ling Tuesday. He had to find a way to let him recover his strength before taking back the Vulture Palace. However, this should be very difficult to do. The current Wulingzi was like a granddette. He was incomparably precious to his own life and power. Once his power was touched, he would be extremely vigilant, even if it was just the slightest movement of the wind. Moreover, once someone touched his lifeblood, he would definitely fight with his life on the line. If a half-sage started to fight with his life on the line, the consequences would be incomparably shocking. Therefore, the entire matter indeed had to be considered at length. West of the northwest continent, in the sky above the sea near the taboo continent, suddenly, two figures approached from afar. One was peerlessly beautiful, the other was peerlessly handsome, and looked down on the world. The fourth person of the evil ways, Princess Mudan, and the young master of the Foxman race of Little Western Paradise, the snow-white masked man, Yaoli. Let's part ways here, Princess Mudan said. Your Excellency Yaoli, won't you reconsider the matter of forming an alliance? Yaoli shook her head lightly and said, I'll say it again. Although the Temple of Annihilation is very strong, there is no need for us, Little Western Paradise, to form an alliance with anyone. No one has the right to form an alliance with us. We have no interest in the conflicts between you humans. Then, Yao Li's figure flashed and disappeared in the air, flying towards the northeast. Princess Mudan's fragrant figure flashed and flew towards the southeast. Several hours later, Yao Li's figure instantly appeared tens of thousands of meters above Cloud Sky City's castle. Yara was holding Bao Bao and playing mahjong with Yin Yen. Suddenly, her heart twitched, and all the hair on her body stood erect. Then she sniffed instinctively, wanting to find something, but found nothing. Sister Alluring Rao, what's wrong? Yarao shook her head and said, Oh, nothing. Master's wife said softly, Yarao, now that little Tion's matter is finished, you should tell him if there's anything. Yes, Yarao said. At this time, Bao Bao, who was in the bosom of Yarao, suddenly raised his head to look, but he only saw the ceiling, and his little face immediately showed a perplexed expression. North Prefecture of Zhongjing. Yang Dingtian was crazily struggling with countless documents. Now he had completely turned into the busiest signing machine. The mountain-like documents were all waiting for him to review and sign. He originally wanted to read 10 lines at a glance, and then sign them directly. But every time this happened, Yun Zhenu's eyes would become very strict as she stared at him, or she would pretend to cough a few times. In short, as long as Yang Dingtian was distracted, she would be able to sense it. This secretary was too competent, she was completely like a housekeeper. Every time this happened, Yang Dingtian would be afraid of her like a tiger. Yun Zhenu also put in a lot of effort. She knew that Yang Dingtian did not like this kind of work, and among the 1,000 documents that he had read, at least 999 of them were signed directly. But among the 1,000 to 2,000 documents, there would always be one or two that Yang Dingtian felt were very inappropriate from his point of view, so he would reject them. With regards to these rejections, the Council of Light and Yun Zhenu treasured them very much. Because Yang Dingtian could often see things from a different point of view, these rejected documents would also become very important. As for Spirit Rabbit, ever since she entered the North Prefecture in her wedding dress, Yang Dingtian had never seen her again. Originally, he thought that after this pitiful little girl escaped from the Sea of Bitterness and met another relative, Ling Bai, the two of them would definitely not want to be separated, and Spirit Rabbit would also enjoy this quiet and leisure life. Then, she would have some charming interactions with Yang Dingtian, even though Yang Dingtian was incomparably busy. However, none of this happened. Spirit Rabbit and Ling Bai were only together for 3 days. In these 3 days, she fully understood Yang Dingtian, after understanding the Council of Light. She then mentioned that she wanted to go to Shijing Tianqi Academy. That's right, she wanted to practice martial arts. She wanted to take back all the time that she had lost. Therefore, in these few months, she was in Shijing, madly practicing martial arts. Of course, no matter in name or in fact, she was Yang Dingtian's wife. So almost every day, there would be information about her sent to Yang Dingtian. In fact, these information were very simple. It was nothing more than just how much her cultivation had broken through. Also, her beauty was recovering day by day. Of course, on the 50th day, the information said that Madame Spirit Rabbit's beauty should have completely recovered, shocking the entire Tianqi Academy. In the end, on the 51st day, the information still said that Madame Spirit Rabbit's beauty was still recovering. On the 100th day, The information still said that Madame Spirit Rabbit's beauty was still recovering. In other words, since she did not eat the poisonous mushrooms, she became more beautiful bit by bit. On the 50th day, the intelligence personnel felt that they had reached their limit, but on the 100th day, she was still becoming more beautiful, and they did not know when it would stop. Since you have recovered your beauty, you should come back. Why are you still in Shijing? Yin Zhenyu asked. Yang Dingtian pretended not to hear, and did not look at Yin Zhenyu's mesmerizing back. How long had it been since he had touched a woman? It had been a long time. The last time was after he defeated Wu Yuming. Then, Wu Maji rushed back to the Snow Clan, because she was worried about Yang Dingtian's duel. She had not seen her twin children for a few months, and she missed them so much that she was going crazy. She was not the only one who went back. Qin Ji and Dishi Bian went with her, and the three of them were as good as one. After Wu Maji left, Yang Dingtian did not have a single woman by his side, and he could not touch her even if he wanted to. Moreover, he was so busy that he did not even have time to go back to Sky City. He was a normal man, and he was more hot-tempered than others. Therefore, whenever Yin Zhenyu talked about this topic, he would definitely keep his mouth shut. Otherwise, if he was provoked, it would be troublesome if there was no way to put out the fire. Seeing Yang Dingtian's bitter face, Yin Zhenyu pursed her lips and smiled. She stretched her body slightly, and the curve of her waist was even more breathtaking. Then, when she saw Yang Dingtian turn his face away, she felt an inexplicable sweetness and satisfaction in her heart. She had always enjoyed her current life, and every day was filled with sweetness. She enjoyed this kind of sweetness, and if she was from Earth, she would have a term for it, which was platonic love. Of course, Yin Zhenyu was closer than that. She also enjoyed the warmth and light touch very much. Sect leader, there is someone outside, and he wants to see you. Zhu Hongxue suddenly said from outside. Yang Dingtian was stunned and said, "Is it someone important?" "I don't know him," Zhu Hongxue said, "but I feel that he is very important." "Okay, I will be right there." Yang Dingtian put down the document in his hand, stretched and walked out. Very quickly, Yang Dingtian saw the unfamiliar man. He was wearing a snow-white mask, but the eyes that were exposed were already beautiful to the point of being devilish. "Sir Yang Dingtian." The masked man bowed slightly to greet him. At this time, Yang Dingtian was almost the #1 person in the chaotic world. Although the masked man was polite, but Yang Dingtian could clearly feel the indifference in his eyes. The way he looked at Yang Dingtian was like a human looking at an animal in the zoo, with curiosity and admiration. That's right, admiration. Just like in the zoo, when you saw some animals doing acrobatics, you would look at them with admiration. "Hello." Yang Dingtian nodded and said, "May I know who you are?" "You have never seen me before, but I have seen you," the masked man Yao Li said. "At that time in the taboo continent, I saw you struggling in the illusion. But Sir Yang Dingtian is very impressive, to be able to escape from the illusion in such a short time. From what I remember, you are the second person to escape from the illusion with your own ability, and compared to the other person, your time was much shorter." "Thank you for the compliment," Yang Dingtian said. Yao Li asked, "Aren't you curious about who the other person who escaped from the illusion was?" Yang Dingtian said, "It should be Dongfang Bingling, or Princess Mudan." Yao Li couldn't help but clap and say, "Wow, Sir Yang Dingtian has really impressed me." For some reason, the more the other party looked at him with admiration, the more uncomfortable Yang Dingtian felt. So he directly said, "May I know your name, and what business do you have with me?" "My name is Yao Li," the masked man said. "I come from Little Western Paradise, the same place as Yao Rao." Yang Dingtian's gaze suddenly trembled, and his heart jumped. Then he said, "Nice to meet you, Sir Yao Li. What business do you have with me?" "Oh, it's nothing," Yao Li said. "I'm just here to bring Yao Rao home. After all, she has been outside for so long. Thank you for taking care of her all these years." Chapter 725. Bring Yara home. Yang Dingtian's eyes narrowed. Then he put on a smile and said, So, someone from her family came? How about this? I'll go back and ask her and see what she thinks, okay? Then, Yang Dingtian's smile became even more enthusiastic. He said, speaking of which, this is the first time I've seen Yarao's family since she was married to me. I shouldn't have. I'll definitely bring Yara back to visit them when I have the time. Seeing Yang Dingtian smile, Yao Li's faint smile disappeared. He took half a step back, and his expression became even more polite. He said, I think you might have misunderstood. When I said bring her home, I meant bring her back to the little Western paradise forever. Yang Dingtian's smile also disappeared. He said, but I think you're being unreasonable. If a woman marries a chicken, she will follow the chicken. If she marries a dog, she will follow the dog. Yarao is married to me, so my place is naturally her home. What home is there to talk about? Oh no. Yao Li bowed again and said, I'm sorry, fox demons and humans are not allowed to marry. Is there such a rule? Yang Dingtian said with a smile. Of course there is, Yao Li said. Yang Dingtian said, then why did you let a bunch of female fox demons come to the human countries? To play. When he said this, Yao Li's eyes twitched and turned cold. Yang Dingtian's words undoubtedly poked the fox demon's sore spot. Why did they let so many female fox demons out? Of course, it was to find humans to mate with and borrow their seeds to improve their bloodline. They wanted to give birth to a perfect demigod race. Yang Dingtian didn't say it clearly, but that was what he meant. Yang Dingtian continued. Also, Yarao is already an adult. She can decide everything by herself. Even if you're her brother, you have no right to interfere. Yao Li stared coldly at Yang Dingtian. I'm not her brother. I'm her fiancé. I grew up with her. When he said this, Yang Dingtian trembled. When he had heard the names Yao Li and Yao Rao, he had thought that they were brother and sister, but the result was that they were actually fiancés. Yao Li took a deep breath and withdrew her exposed anger. She spoke politely, Sire Yang Dingtian. Did you know that when you were in the Forbidden Continent's illusion realm a few months ago, not only was I there, but Dongfang Bingling was there as well? Yang Dingtian obviously knew, but he didn't nod or shake his head. Do you know what she's doing? Yao Li asked. I don't know, Yang Dingtian said. Yao Li said, is he there for the sake of forming an alliance? They want Little Western Paradise and the Temple of Annihilation to form an alliance. This was a major event, an unprecedented major event. His expression immediately turned serious. Yao Li continued, of course, don't worry. I didn't agree to it, because we don't interfere in your human affairs. Your Excellency Yang Dingtian, I have come with great sincerity. How about we make a deal? Speak, Yang Dingtian said. If you agree to my request, we will provide you with generous help in this battle against the evil ways, Yao Li said. Yang Dingtian said with a smile. Are you planning to form an alliance with the Council of Light? No. Yao Li shook her head vigorously and said, I don't know about the Temple of Annihilation or the Council of Light. To be honest, I don't know what they mean. I only have one word for you, and that is humans. If I form an alliance with humans, I think I will become the laughingstock of Little Western Paradise. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. Yang Dingtian said. Go on. Yao Li said. When I say help, I mean to send some experts to help you. For example, a few of your so-called half-saints? A few dozen of your so-called great masters will be your reward for taking care of Yao Rao all these years. How about that? Yang Dingtian didn't answer. The coldness in his eyes was getting stronger and stronger. I'm sorry. My words are harsh, but they are the truth. Yao Li said. Just like how you humans can help monkeys, but you can't form an alliance with them, right? If I hurt your pride, then I'm sorry. My pride doesn't come from my mouth, and it's hard for it to be hurt by it. Yang Dingtian said. Then if I refuse, you will stand on the side of the evil ways, right? Oh no. Yao Li said. You have completely misunderstood. Because we are noble silver dragon bloodline bearers, we won't bully others. That's why I came to negotiate with you very honestly, and I'm offering a generous reward. If you refuse, then I can only apologize. What? If I refuse, you will kill me, right? Yang Dingtian sneered. How can you understand it like that? Yao Li said, Your Excellency Yang Dingtian, please don't judge me from the perspective of a human. Why would I want to kill you? Just like how a human wouldn't want to kill a monkey, just because it barked at him, right? If you don't agree, then I can only regretfully take Yao Rao away, that's all. Yang Dingtian smiled and said, What if I stop you from taking Yao Rao away? Yao Li was stunned and said, Then I can only be very, very sorry. After all, patience is limited. It's just like a monkey blocking your way and throwing feces at you. I think you're likely to kick it away, right? Yang Dingtian didn't even have the desire to be angry. There were many racists on Earth. In their eyes, only white people were human, yellow people were monkeys, and black people were beasts. Of course, the racism of this person in front of him was even more deranged. In his eyes, all humans were monkeys. Yao Li smiled and said, I know you have very complicated emotions, so it's hard for you to make any rational decisions when you're angry. As a silver dragon bloodline holder, I think I have to give you time. How about 10 days? I'll give you 10 days to think about it, and I'll come back after 10 days. If you agree, I'll give you some so-called half-saints and grandmasters to help you win this so-called Armageddon war. If you don't agree, then I can only take Yao Rao away. Of course, if you want to stop me, then I can only be very, very sorry. Then, Yao Li turned to leave. Yang Dingtian suddenly said, If Yao Rao and I don't have a child, will you still want to take her away? You only talk about Yao Rao, and don't talk about the baby. How hypocritical are you? Yao Li's face twitched, and then said, As for the child, please don't worry. After I marry Yao Rao, I'll treat her as my own. Yang Dingtian said, I have another question to ask you. Yao Li said, Please speak. Yang Dingtian said seriously, Please tell me, a man who needs another man's help to have a child with a woman, where does his sense of superiority come from? This is the first time I've seen someone with a sense of superiority, even after being cuckolded. Yao Li's eyes suddenly turned cold, and then he continued to smile, and raised his slender index finger, and said, The first time you threw shit at me, and that exhausted a third of my patience. If there are 2 more times, then I can only be very, very sorry. Goodbye. Then, he bowed respectfully in a gentlemanly manner, and then directly disappeared. At this moment, for some reason, Yang Dingtian actually missed Wu Yuming. Even though Brother Netherworld was hypocritical and ethereal, he was indeed the kind of person who was as carefree as the wind and clouds. He wouldn't bend his waist all the time, bow all the time, and wouldn't speak polite and vicious words all the time. When Wu Yuming occasionally said vicious words and cursed Yang Dingtian, it was also quite realistic. Princess Mu Dan flashed the dark purple wings on her back, and quickly soared on the surface of the sea. Then, she floated above a rotten island. She raised her hands slightly, and immediately, 2 bodies slowly floated up from the disgusting bloody mud below. She frowned slightly, and distinguished which one was Wu Yuming. Then, she threw the other one back into the bloody mud, and didn't look at it again. Wu Yuming was still alive, and he really didn't know why he couldn't die. Princess Mu Dan, right? He said hoarsely. Yes, Princess Mu Dan said indifferently. You lost the duel with Yang Dingtian. Yes, I lost, Wu Yuming said. Then what are you doing right now? Mu Dan asked. Wu Yuming said, I'm waiting for death, but I don't know why, but I can't die. You don't have to die, Mu Dan said. You can live. No, please don't, Wu Yuming said. It's impossible for you to bring a dead person back to life. You can recover your energy, and even become stronger, Mu Dan said. I have a first-class evil spirit, and Li Ming also has a first-class evil spirit. Because your and Dongli's mission is special, you don't have it in your bodies. But your first-class evil spirit has been temporarily stored somewhere. Once the mission fails, you will be given the evil spirit that you should have obtained. I've brought your share this time. Dongli was responsible for making the Naga pregnant, and he was worried that the evil spirit energy would affect this. So he didn't activate his evil spirit. And Wu Yuming, because she wanted to usurp the power of the Tiando League, of course, she couldn't have the evil spirit energy. so it wasn't activated. Wu Yuming said. I can actually enjoy the same treatment as you and Li Ming. You deserve it, Mu Dan said. However, I don't need this kind of evil spirit anymore. Wu Yuming shook her head and said, I can't beat him after cheating once, and then I have to cheat a second time. I'm not that shameless. No, you don't have to deal with Yang Dingtian anymore, Mu Dan said. As you said, you only have one battle with Yang Dingtian. Once you fail, there won't be a second time. Therefore, the battle between him and Yang Dingtian had already ended. The next mission you have to complete is the upcoming Armageddon War. Wu Yuming's eyes trembled slightly, but there was still no light. Wu Yuming thought for a while, but still shook her head and said, I was only born to defeat Yang Dingtian in this life. Only by defeating him can I obtain a new life, and have the qualifications to do other things. Now that I've failed, I don't have the qualifications to do other things, and I can only die. So just put me down, and leave me here to rot and die. At least I'm not left with nothing here. At this moment, Mu Dan's gaze fell on the body that she had just thrown down. Ling Wu's body that she didn't know whether was dead or alive. Mu Dan slowly looked at Wu Yuming, and said coldly, I'm very moved by your desire to die. However, all of this is meaningless. I can only say that it's not up to you to decide whether you want to live or die. From the day you were created, your fate wasn't up to you to decide. Therefore, even if you want to die, you can't do it. After that, Mu Dan's gaze suddenly turned cold. Both of her hands suddenly converged in the air, and squeezed the air between her palms. Immediately, a purplish-blue light dragon condensed and swam in her hands. It was lifelike and ferocious. That purplish-blue light instantly set off Mu Dan's incomparably beautiful face, making it incomparably gorgeous, and incomparably bewitching. Phew! Then she suddenly released it. Aoo! With a fierce roar, the purplish-blue light dragon suddenly drilled into Wu Yuming's body. No, I don't need it, I don't need it. Wu Yuming struggled with all her might in the air, and desperately roared. However, just like what Mu Dan had said, his fate was never up to him to decide. No matter if it was life or death, he had no right to decide. After that purplish-blue light dragon entered Wu Yuming's body, in an instant, an unparalleled energy crazily filled Wu Yuming's body. His already rotting body instantly turned into ashes inch by inch. Only a skeleton was left, as well as a ball of light and shadow whirled in the Qi Sea. Immediately after, the skeleton in his entire body was completely shattered. In the entire Wu Yuming, there was only a Qi Sea energy world left. The roaming dragon of light and shadow drilled into his Qi Sea with all its might. Boom! In an instant, the entire sea suddenly set off monstrous waves. Huge waves of tens of thousands of meters, and huge waves of thousands of miles. The entire sky instantly covered all the light, and the two suns in the sky were completely shrouded. The world of thousands of miles seemed to have been completely changed, as if it was the end of the world. After the swimming dragon completely entered Wu Yuming's Qi Sea, a blue light instantly exploded. In an instant, the world of thousands of miles, where one couldn't see their fingers, instantly became as bright as day, as if instantly blinding people. After the light dissipated, a brand new body floated in the air. The skin of her entire body was as flawless as white jade. Her entire body was like the most exquisite and gorgeous sculpture. Wu Yuming stretched out her hand and looked at her palm and body. It was even more perfect than before she was seriously injured. The surging power in her palm was incomparably powerful. However, she still didn't have any pleasant surprise, but only endless disappointment. Is there any meaning in becoming stronger? Wu Yuming slowly said. My previous strength was accumulated bit by my own efforts. Now a first-class evil spirit has made me so strong all of a sudden. What a big cheat. What do you want me to do? Kill Yang Dingtian? I will vomit. No, I said it before. You and Yang Dingtian are already over. Mu Dan slowly said. Your next mission is to help your creator, fight against the so-called fate, help your foster father, and defeat the so-called God. The world extermination war is only the first step. Chapter 726. When Wu Yuming came back to his senses, Princess Mu Dan had already disappeared without a trace. At this moment, no one could describe what he was feeling. Whatever he lacked, he would pursue it. Wu Yuming wanted to defeat Yang Dingtian in a frenzy just to prove his worth. So for many years, he cultivated with all his might. Like an invisible person, he traveled to every corner of the world. When he discovered the darkness profound flame, he was as excited as Yang Dingtian. He felt as if he had found the source of this world's energy. Then he started to search for profound flames. All kinds of profound flames were used to feed this darkness profound flame. This darkness profound flame was extremely powerful, but he had never used it before, because he wanted to use it on God's spokesperson. Every year, he was waiting for the appearance of God's spokesperson. Every year, he was filled with anticipation and urgency. Therefore, before Yang Dingtian appeared, he had already been in a spiritual relationship with Yang Dingtian for a long time. He wanted to use this extremely powerful darkness profound flame on God's spokesperson. Once he defeated God's spokesperson, he would obtain a new life and become a real person. And when Yang Dingtian appeared, he was really disappointed. Extremely disappointed. How could God's spokesperson be so weak? How could he become God's spokesperson? So, at the beginning, Wu Yuming was not only disdainful of Yang Dingtian, he was also filled with hatred. You are so weak. How can you be worthy of my lifetime of hard work? How can you be worthy of my darkness profound flame? So, on the mountain of the cloud sky pavilion, he could not hold back the disappointment in his heart, and expressed his disdain for Yang Dingtian. Then, Yang Dingtian performed miracles again and again. Finally, he made Wu Yuming face him. In the end, Yang Dingtian stabbed Wu Yuming so many times that he started to hate Yang Dingtian again. In the end, when the duel was about to begin, even this feeling of hatred disappeared. Because he wanted to use the darkness profound flame to kill Yang Dingtian. He was going to obtain a new life. Then something unbelievable happened. He was defeated and killed in an instant. Perhaps many people would think that he was unwilling to give up, but he really wasn't. Even after being seriously injured, his cultivation was still far above Yang Dingtian's. However, he wasn't unwilling. He just wanted to find a place to wait for death. Because this proved that fate could not be defied. Even though he was 10 times stronger than the God spokesperson, he was still killed in an instant. It was as if everything was predestined. With this answer, everything became meaningless to Wu Yuming. As for obtaining a first-class dark spirit, it made him extremely powerful in an instant, breaking through an incredible bottleneck. Others might have been overjoyed, but this was not the case. But for Wu Yuming, what did it feel like? It was just like playing games. Level 90 was the pinnacle, a pinnacle that almost no one could surpass. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, and so on. You've spent countless lives and effort to reach level 85. You're about to break through to level 90. In the end, with a whoosh, the system installed the private server and instantly reached level 90. Even reaching level 100 was very easy. Instantly, the hard work and struggle of the past few decades became meaningless. He raised his hand into the air. Immediately Ling Wu, who was covered in blood and mud, slowly flew up from the quagmire. With a light wave, the blood and mud on her body instantly flew away. Ling Wu became clean. However, her body was thin, weak, and on the verge of death. I'm not going to die. What do you plan to do? Asked Wu Yuming. Ling Wu shook her head, indicating that she didn't know. Wu Yuming thought for a while and said, now that I have a first-class dark spirit in my body, I should be one of the strongest humans in this world. However, I can't find the goal of survival. In the following days, I'll work hard to find the goal of my life. As for you, I don't have the authority to decide your fate. Let yourself decide, okay? Ling Wu nodded. Wu Yuming said, I'm the owner of a first-class dark spirit. Therefore, I can bestow a second-class dark spirit to 5 people. I'll give one of them to you. He stretched out his palm. Immediately, a blue bead floated above his palm. With a light flick, this blue bead flew into Ling Wu's chi vessel. You have 3 days to think about your future life. Wu Yuming said, of course this choice is actually life and death. 3 days later, I'll activate the second-class dark spirit in your body on my dark spirit tree. At that time, you'll undoubtedly become extremely powerful. However, you won't even be able to die. If you don't want this, you can choose to commit suicide within 3 days, okay? Ling Wu nodded again. Wu Yuming channeled a stream of profound energy into her body, allowing her to gradually recover her vitality and energy. After that, he gently lifted Ling Wu's back and flew in the direction of the central continent. 3 days. Within these 3 days, Ling Wu could choose to die. After 3 days, once the second-class dark spirit in her body was activated, she wouldn't be able to die anymore. At this moment, Yang Dingtian was talking to Yao Rao in the Cloud Castle. Yao Li, he's indeed my former fiancé. Moreover, we can be considered as childhood sweethearts. We've been playing together since we were very, very young. Yao Rao said, our fathers were the patriarchs of our respective tribes. Therefore, we were engaged when we were very young. Yang Dingtian said, but I feel that he's very loathsome. He's a stupid racist. Yao Rao smiled faintly and said, he's just this kind of arrogant person. Yang Dingtian sneered and said, a man who allowed his fiancée to leave the little western paradise to find a human to plant her seed. What bullshit pride is there to talk about? Yao Rao's delicate body suddenly trembled violently. She said in a low voice, Little Tian, actually, when I left the little western paradise and came to the human countries to plant my seed, he wasn't there. He had gone to the most dangerous place to cultivate. And the reason why he cultivated with all his might was because he didn't want me to plant my seed with a human. Yang Dingtian was stunned. Yao Rao continued, he's actually always been the craziest opponent of the plant borrowing theory. He looked down on humans. He always firmly believed that the Silver Dragon bloodline should rely on their own efforts to ascend to the demigod clan, and not walk the same path as Naga. At that time, during the tribal assembly, he picked me as a plant female fox. Moreover, I was the most important one. He wanted to elope with me, and even wanted to instigate all the young people in the tribe to rebel. Thus, the Tribal Alliance Council could only cancel my plant borrowing qualification on the surface. They gave Yao Li a chance to prove himself. After that, he went to the most dangerous dark domain to cultivate alone. Taking advantage of his absence, the Tribal Alliance Council sent me out of the little western paradise to plant my seed in the human countries. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian sunk into silence. Then he said, although he has a perverted racial tendency, but he's not completely useless. Yao Rao gave a complicated smile. You liked him, didn't you? Yang Dingtian suddenly asked. Yao Rao smiled and said, we were childhood sweethearts. There's no need to talk about liking or not liking him, but we definitely have the same feelings as family. Yang Dingtian hugged her and said softly, you're mine. Remember, you're mine. No one can change this. Whoever wants to change this, I'll kill his whole family. If I can't kill him today, I'll kill his whole family tomorrow. I know I'm yours. I'll always be yours. Yao Rao kissed Yang Dingtian's chest and said softly, husband, I'm not worried about Yao Li. Although he looks down on humans almost crazily, but he's not a bad person. What I'm worried about is those elders in the little western paradise. Once they know that we have a child, an almost perfect demigod child, they won't let us go. They won't hesitate to kill our whole family, and then steal the child. Yang Dingtian's face twitched fiercely. He clenched his teeth and didn't say anything. Baby. Yao Rao gently stroked Yang Dingtian's face and said softly, I'll go and see Yao Li. I'll talk to him, and see how bad the situation is. If it's not bad enough, I can ask him to let us go. Although it's not pleasant to hear. It's not shameful for the baby, for our family. Yang Dingtian kissed her delicate lips and said softly, do you trust him? I trust him, just like how you trust Qin Huayu and Song Chunhua, Yao Rao said. Good, Yang Dingtian said. Then you go and talk to him. Wu Yuming and Ling Wu returned to the great central capital. He changed his appearance and walked aimlessly on the street, like an ordinary person. He observed every person on the street, thought about the meaning of his life, and searched for the goal of his life. Then, he came to a newsstand and bought a copy of the Chaos Times. He read the newspaper very carefully. Then, he took out a handful of gold coins and gave it to the newsstand owner. "I'll have to trouble you to find me a copy of all the Chaos Times in the past 100 days. The newsstand owner's eyes lit up when he saw the gold coins. He immediately went back to look for it. Then, he folded the newspaper that he had left behind and handed it to Wu Yuming. After receiving it, Wu Yuming nodded at him to thank him. Then, he carried the thick newspaper and found an ordinary inn to stay in. Then he read it carefully. He passed by his once prominent southern mansion. It was still there. Even the people from the Netherworld Sea hadn't left yet. However, not only did he not go in, he didn't even take a look. In the ordinary room, he began to read the articles one by one. Then, he read the articles about himself. There were more than 100 articles. He became almost the only male lead in the Chaos Times. His limelight completely overshadowed Yang Dingtian. Just like that, he read the articles one by one. Not a single word was a rumor. Not a single word was a smear. Not a single word was a stain. Everything that Wu Yuming had experienced was described in an extremely objective manner. When he forgot about Wu Yuming's identity and treated himself as a reader, he finished reading the several 100,000-word serial about Wu Yuming. Then, he immediately developed complicated feelings for this person. Pity, sympathy, admiration. However, there wasn't much discussed. On the contrary, his impression of Wu Yuming's wife's vulture became extremely disgusting. Ling Wu, on the other hand, was more or less negative. This was also the feeling that all the readers had towards Wu Yuming. After these 100 articles, Wu Yuming had almost become the #1 person. Countless people sympathized with him and pitied him. However, there was almost no pure disgust. There was even a group of fans that had an astonishing number of them. Almost all of them were women. This fan group was now frequently appearing in the newspapers and news. Among them, the most exaggerated one was Yang Dingtian's eldest daughter, Yang Ning-er, who was the leader of the Iron Furnace City's fan group. Naturally, she wasn't a fan of Wu Yuming. She only worshipped Yang Dingtian. Her original words were, "It's not easy for Wu Yuming to become my father's enemy. In order to prevent this fan group from going astray, I'll reluctantly become their leader." After Wu Yuming finished reading, he couldn't help but smile. His mind began to recall that Yang Ning-er. In the end, he discovered that he seemed to have never seen this fairy-like little girl before. After he finished reading all the articles about himself, he sighed and closed his eyes. Lying on the bed, he began to think about the meaning of his life. After that, he immediately became envious of Yang Dingtian. At the very least, his life was very meaningful. As for Ling Wu, she was also thinking about her own choice. She could either die, or let the second great evil spirit in her body revive. That way, she would become extremely powerful. However, at that time, she wouldn't be able to die even if she wanted to. Moreover, her path had already come to an end when Wu Yuming was defeated and revealed his identity as one of the evil ways. Wu Yuming had already told her clearly that he was evil and Yang Dingtian was righteous. In that case, she couldn't use this righteous excuse anymore. Since she had already walked to a dead end, the only right thing to do was to die. She arrived at the northern region of the Zhongjing city and requested to see Yang Dingtian. It was Yun Junu who received her. When he saw the pale Ling Wu in her lifeless eyes, Yun Junu couldn't help but be stunned. "Sect Master isn't in the Zhongjing city. He's in the Cloud Heaven city," Ling Wu said. "Then can you give me a demon eagle? I need to see him as soon as possible." Yun Junu said, "Why do you want to see him? Are you going to scold him again?" Immediately, Ling Wu couldn't help but smile bitterly. As expected, she had given Yang Dingtian's people such a bad influence. Every time she came, she would mock and scold him. However, her status was lowly. Yang Dingtian would clench his teeth and listen to her words. Yet he couldn't kill her. "Don't worry, it's not like that. Actually, I didn't really dare to see him a long time ago," Ling Wu said. "I'm looking for him to free myself." Yun Junu stared at Ling Wu for a long time before nodding his head. Then he called the fastest demon eagle for her. Yin Zhenyu rode on the demon eagle and flew towards the cloud heaven city in the northwest continent. At the same time, Yao Rao rode on the demon eagle and flew towards the yin-yang mirror in the north. Because Yao Li, who possessed crazy racism, couldn't live in any place that had the smell of humans. Therefore, he chose to live in the yin-yang mirror that was uninhabited. 12 hours later, Ling Wu landed in the cloud heaven city and requested to see Yang Dingtian. Yao Rao also landed in the yin-yang mirror at around the same time. At this moment, Yao Li was sitting on the surface of the mirror motionlessly. Chapter 727. Why didn't you go in to see me when you arrived at Cloud Sky City? Yao Rao asked, using the unique language of the Black Fox clan. A man can't protect his own woman, so he doesn't have the face to see you, Yao Li said, but there was a hint of anger in his tone. My man is Yang Dingtian. Yao Rao smiled and said, Big brother, don't get it wrong. Your man is me? Yao Li looked at Yao Rao and said word by word. Yang Dingtian is just a despicable and lowly human. He is just an insignificant stallion. We are noble silver dragon bloodline bearers. Don't forget this just because you stayed in the human world for a long time. Yao Li, I won't argue with you about this, Yao Rao said. I'll tell you directly here. I won't leave with you. My husband and my son are here. This is my home. You love him. You love Yang Dingtian, that monkey? Yao Li said sternly. Yes, perhaps I can't say that I love him because I haven't experienced a lot with him like his other wives, Yao Rao said slowly. But without a doubt, I miss him very much. It's like a woman who married a man she has never met, did the most intimate things together, and gave birth to a child together. She will miss him and love him. So even though my love is different from Shimin Yin Yin and the others, it's still love. Then what about me? Yao Li said angrily. Then what am I? Are you going to betray the feelings between us? Yao Li, first of all, even though you and I grew up together, it's not an intense love between a man and a woman. I see you more as my big brother, Yao Rao said. Of course, if we get married smoothly, then this kind of feelings might become the love between husband and wife. We might also become a loving couple that can't be separated. But now, I'm Yang Dingtian's woman. After I got pregnant, I wanted to leave him and return to Little Western Paradise, but I realized that I can't do it. Then what if I take you away by force? Yao Li said. You should know that even if Yang Dingtian were to gather all of his monkey minions, he still wouldn't be able to stop me. Then you are my enemy, Yao Rao coldly said. If you bring me back to Little Western Paradise, I will be powerless to stop you. But my precious son will work hard to become stronger, kill all of you, and then bring me back to Yang Dingtian, even if it takes 20 or 30 years. Of course, even without my precious son, perhaps in less than 10 years, Yang Dingtian will kill his way into the Little Western Paradise and bring me home. Dream on, dream on. Yao Li sneered and said, Yang Dingtian is just a human monkey. He's dreaming if he wants to defeat us noble silver dragon bloodline bearers. Yao Li, frogs at the bottom of a well. I'm talking about you people. Yao Rao coldly said. Yao Li said, It seems like the human world really can't be stayed for too long. You'll be polluted if you stay too long, just like you. You can say whatever you want. Yao Rao coldly said. In short, if you want to take me and my baby away, you'll have to kill me and bring my corpse back. Yao Li was furious. If you don't come with me, I'll kill Yang Dingtian, Yao Rao sternly said. Before you kill Yang Dingtian, you'll have to step over my corpse first. Betrayal, betrayal. Yao Li was instantly enraged and said loudly. This is a shameful betrayal. How can you do this? How can you betray our feelings? Moreover, it's towards a human monkey. It's still the same. You can say whatever you want, Yao Rao said. But you know, once I make a decision, I will never change it. Then she suddenly turned around and was about to leave. Wait, Yao Li suddenly said. Is this okay? You can leave your son to Yang Dingtian, but you have to follow me. However, you must come with me and return to the Western Paradise with me. Impossible, A woman can't have two husbands. Yarao coldly said. Then, she rode on the demon eagle and returned to Cloud Sky City. However, after flying for 100 miles, she turned back again. Yaoli was instantly overjoyed, thinking that she had changed her mind. She flew in front of Yaoli again and asked, "That's right. I was confused by my anger just now and forgot to ask you. Other than you, who else in the Little Western Paradise knows that I've successfully gotten pregnant in the human countries, and even gave birth to a child?" Yaoli was instantly disappointed and furious. He said unhappily, "I don't know." Yarao said, "They don't know?" Yaoli said, "Yes. I'm not sure if they know that you've successfully given birth to a child." Yarao said, "Then use your brain to recall." Yaoli took a deep breath and said, "I really don't know, and I don't dare to guarantee." Yarao looked at him deeply. Then she turned around and returned to Cloud Sky City. The moment young Dingtian saw Ling Wu, he was extremely astonished. He completely did not expect that he could still see Ling Wu at this time. However, the current Ling Wu was almost unrecognizable to him. Her skin was so white that it was almost bloodless. Moreover, she had lost a lot of weight. Not only had her temperament changed, even her appearance had changed a little. From a healthy and powerful wheat-colored woman, she had turned into a beautiful and delicate girl. Purely looking at her appearance, it seemed that she had really become much more beautiful. However, young Dingtian still liked that healthy and powerful woman with wheat-colored skin. Of course, the previous Ling Wu had always carried a hidden fierceness and resentment. However, the current her had a calm and indifferent expression. It was as if she had really undergone some kind of transformation. So much so that young Dingtian did not know how to deal with her. "Sit." After a long time, young Dingtian said this word. Then he said, "Do you want to drink some tea?" Ling Wu was slightly stunned. Then she nodded. Young Dingtian found some fragrant tea and lifted the kettle. However, he realized that the water was cold. Therefore, he hurriedly channeled his profound energy into the kettle to heat up the water. Then he poured 2 cups of tea. After Ling Wu received the tea, she held it in her hands and stared blankly. Young Dingtian was also sitting behind the table. For a moment, he did not know how to open his mouth. Immediately, the two of them froze there awkwardly. Why didn't you ask me if I found Wu Yuming?" Ling Wu finally opened her mouth. Young Dingtian, I don't think it's appropriate for me to ask." Ling Wu said. "Then why didn't you ask why I'm looking for you at this time?" Young Dingtian scratched his head and said, "Why are you looking for me at this time?" Uffed. Ling Wu could not help but laugh. However, her beautiful face was incomparably desolate. Then she smiled and said, "Didn't you scold me quite fiercely every time you saw me previously? Why are you so gentle now?" Young Dingtian, "It's because you mocked me first. That's why I scolded you back. He didn't provoke me, so why would I scold him?" Ling Wu was stunned. Then, her smile was filled with even more bitterness. Ling Wu asked again, "Can I ask you a question?" Young Dingtian, "Go ahead. However, don't ask a question that's too difficult." Ling Wu said, "When you successfully won the City Lord's position, why didn't you go to Inferno Island to pick me up?" She had practically used up all of her courage to ask this question. Young Dingtian gritted his teeth and thought for a while before saying, "Because I was very, very busy. Of course, this wasn't the main reason. The main reason was that I hoped that you would be able to successfully marry someone else." Ling Wu said, "It's because I don't hold enough weight in your heart, right?" "You can say that." Young Dingtian, "Actually, at that time, feelings were already a kind of burden to me. I was somewhat unable to bear it." "Then how were you able to marry Qin Jiaojiao, Mu Liani, Wu Maji, and Ning Roer?" Ling Wu said, "Wu Maji and Ning Roer, I dare not compare their beauty. However, don't tell me that Qin Jiaojiao is much better than me?" Young Dingtian was silent for a moment before saying, "Firstly, Jiaojiao is a very cute girl. I also like her very much and love her dearly. Every woman has a unique inner world, including you. You're practically the most special girl I've ever met. However, I don't have the courage to explore the inner world of every girl. Because that would be an extremely huge emotional burden to me. Because that would mean a responsibility, and I might not be able to bear such a huge responsibility. Ling Wu's eyes turned red as she said, "You still haven't answered my question. Why can you marry Qin Jiaojiao so easily, but can't you send someone, even if it's just a random person, a message to Inferno Island, and ask me to come to Cloud Heaven City and come to your side?" Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and said, "Ling Wu, before I married Qin Jiaojiao, I only hated her. Her reputation was extremely bad. However, for the sake of Cloud Heaven City, I could only marry her. After I decided to marry her, I decided to understand her and love her. The facts have proven that she's indeed a cute girl." "No, this answer still can't satisfy me," Ling Wu said while sobbing. "Yang Dingtian, I seem to have told you before, or perhaps I didn't. I've loved 2.5 women. One is Dongfang Bingling. My love was born from longing, which then became even stronger because of hatred. The other is my wife, Shiman Yinyan, and Shiman Ningning. Don't ask me who I love more. I don't have the heart to answer. In fact, I've experienced many women after that, especially Wu Maji. She's more beautiful than Yinyan and Ningning. She's more special, more complicated, and completely capable of making people madly love her. It can be said that if I met Wu Maji before I met Dongfang Bingling, I would have pursued her crazily, and wouldn't even be able to fall in love with other women. However, I've indeed met Dongfang Bingling first." After drinking a mouthful of tea, Yang Dingtian, "Ling Wu, I'm a very ordinary man. My love for women is also very superficial. Let me put it more bluntly. As long as she's extremely beautiful, and has an extremely good figure, even if her character isn't too good, I'll fall in love with her as long as she enters my world. Once we start to fall in love, I'll turn my love into love. I'm such a superficial man. I'm not like Wu Yuming. He's almost harsh towards love. Only an extremely small number of women can move his heart. As for me, as long as she's beautiful enough, she can move my heart. Then, as long as her character is cute, I'll be addicted to her. Therefore, Ling Wu," Yang Dingtian said slowly, "my love isn't mysterious or noble. It's also not some amazing spirit. My love is very superficial. The reason why I don't love you enough is because I've already been stuffed with enough emotions before I met you. I've also lost the impulse to take the initiative to possess a woman. Therefore, if the you back then had come to Cloud Heaven City, I would have been prepared to welcome your arrival, to truly understand you, and to love you. However, if you want me to take the initiative to marry you, I'm sorry I can't do it." Yang Dingtian drank another cup of tea and sighed. "Ling Wu, there's a saying that every woman is an angel. Actually, I agree with this saying, but I don't agree with it at the same time. In this world, there's a large portion of women who are ordinary and ordinary. There's also a portion of women who are vicious. There's only a small portion of women who are complicated and filled with strong personalities. As for you, you seem to be in this small portion because you have a will and self-esteem that's so strong that it's almost abnormal. Of course, this isn't a compliment." Yang Dingtian said, "In fact, this kind of woman makes me feel intimidated at the sight of her. However, if there's a type of woman in this world who's most worthy of happiness and most worthy of becoming an angel, then you can be one of them. It's just that the superficial me back then was unable to match your complicated and strong will of emotions." Hearing this, Ling Wu finally couldn't hold back her tears. Like pearls dropping from a necklace, her tears flowed down continuously. "Ling Wu, I've once said that you've fallen. I've said that you've betrayed your past. You've started to despise your past in your hard work." Yang Dingtian said slowly, "Perhaps I've said most of the wrong things because I didn't know you well enough back then. The reason why you resented running boats, resented your slightly dark skin, and hated your unglamorous clothing, it's not because you've betrayed your past, but because of my responsibility." Ling Wu started to bite her lips and started to tremble continuously. "It's because I didn't pick you up. It's because I married Qin Jiaojiao that you felt inferior. You felt that your status wasn't worthy of me. At this time, Wu Yoming's appearance had undoubtedly given you the strength to set an example. Therefore, you took the initiative to change. Not only did you have to be worthy of me, you also had to surpass me. After that, you'll appear before me in a myriad of splendor, making me start to be amazed by you and regret my indifference towards you. Yang Dingtian. This kind of mentality is very normal. It's just like a loser who fell in love with a goddess, but the goddess didn't spare him a glance. Therefore he worked hard in his heart. I must prosper and appear before the goddess in a dazzling manner one day, making her regret not choosing me back then. Of course, the loser here refers to a man with a lowly status. With a sigh, Yang Dingtian. It's just that your willpower is too strong. Therefore you've gone further and further. Furthermore, your wisdom is unable to control your willpower, causing you to lose yourself in your heart. But fundamentally, this can't be considered as self-degradation. Instead, a lot of it is because of me. The true self-degradation is like vulture, because of greed. At this moment, Lingwu finally couldn't hold it in any longer. She covered her mouth and started to sob intensely. Yang Dingtian didn't stop her. He just let her cry to her heart's content. After crying for close to an hour, she gradually calmed down. She raised her head and asked, Yang Dingtian, if you could foresee what would happen later, would you have gone to Inferno Island to pick me up? Yes. If I knew that it would bring you such great harm, I would definitely have gone to pick you up. Yang Dingtian, I've said it before. I'm a superficial man. Therefore, I wouldn't be willing to let a beautiful and unique woman fall into the demonic barrier of the abyss. Lingwu wiped away the tears on her face. For the first time, she revealed a smile to Yang Dingtian and said, Actually, I originally wanted to apologize to you. However, there's no need for that now. Lingwu continued, Originally, I also wanted to explain to you. I wanted to explain the reason for all my actions and my way of thinking. However, there's no need for that now. Lingwu continued, I've even issued a final provocation to you. That's right, it's a provocation. I just wanted to let you know that I'm not in the wrong even if I'm standing on the side of evil. However, the one in the wrong is you. However, before I even open my mouth, you've already taken the initiative to say that this is your fault. Even if it's actually my fault. I was too obsessed and too prideful. In the name of my personality, I forced others to do things. Because I love you and want to marry you. Yet you didn't give me the same response. I felt that I've suffered great harm and humiliation. In fact, you've never hurt me. On the contrary, you've saved me and my family. Rather than saying that I love you, it's better to say that I love myself too much. Lingwu drank the tea in her hand. After that, she smiled at Yang Dingtian and said, All right, I'm truly free now. After that, she walked to the front of Yang Dingtian and said, If you have even the slightest bit of pity for me, then please give me my final release and kill me with your own hands. All right? Chapter 728. After the transformation, Lingwu rushed to the central capital and saw Wu Yuming. How do you feel? Wu Yuming looked at Lingwu. Lingwu had become so much more beautiful. He couldn't help but look at her in amazement. I feel very strange. Lingwu said. It's different from what I imagined. I thought that the terrifying feeling of darkness would instantly envelop my entire body and make me unable to resist it. However, who knew that it wasn't the case? Instead, it was a kind of light, incomparably blurry, an incomparably blissful feeling. I can't describe it. In short, I feel very excited, as if I'm floating in the air. That's right. Wu Yuming said. The evil spirit energy has such a subtle influence that makes people fall deeply. Your excitement and blissful feeling will last for a very long time, because you were originally too weak. After a period of time, when this excitement and blissful feeling gradually fades away, you will become incomparably sad and dispirited, so much so that you will crazily pursue this feeling again. And the thing that can bring about this feeling is the strength of energy and the rise of authority. Therefore, you can only desperately pursue authority and strength to make yourself stronger and stronger. Moreover, there's no end to it, until your will is completely ruled by the evil spirit energy. What about you? Lingwu asked. Do you feel excited and blissful when a first-grade evil spirit allows you to break through to the half-saint realm directly? Wu Yuming shook her head vigorously and said, "Little Wu, I'm different from you. My past is too long and heavy, so much so that this little bit of excitement is completely unable to offset the confusion in my heart. Therefore, breaking through to the half-saint realm not only doesn't make me excited, it makes me even more dispirited. This includes Dongfang Bingling. The strength brought about by the first-grade evil spirit energy can only make her suffer incomparably. You know that she was originally the master of the hidden sect. She wanted to become the #1 person in the world through her own efforts. However, the first-grade evil spirit has already destroyed all of her efforts." Following that, Wu Yuming smiled and said, "All right, let's not talk about us. Let's talk about you. How's your talk with Yang Dingtian?" "Very good," Ling Wu said. "At least I don't hate him anymore. Instead, I hate myself." Wu Yuming said, "Even though this is a deeper obsession, it's still considered an improvement. How did Yang Dingtian persuade you to give up on suicide?" Ling Wu said, "She said that if I were to commit suicide now, my life would be too worthless. Therefore, I have to work hard to find my own value. The first step is to defeat the invasion of the evil spirit's will." Wu Yuming said, "He didn't want you to defeat the second-class evil spirit. Instead, he wanted you to look at problems from a higher perspective, expand your mind, and further find the value of your life. Do you understand?" Ling Wu nodded. Wu Yuming said, "Second-class evil spirits are like addictive monsters. That feeling of happiness and excitement made you desperately chase after it until you couldn't stop. In the end, the evil spirit completely controlled your will and turned you into its tool, madly chasing after power." Ling Wu said with a trembling voice, Then can I resist it? Direct resistance is meaningless." Wu Yuming said, "Because can you reject the excitement and happiness in your heart right now?" Ling Wu shook her head and said, "I can't reject it. In fact, the reason why I returned to the central continent immediately was because I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to resist the happiness in my heart and would rush to Yang Dingtian to woo him, because I felt that this happiness was gradually destroying my strong self-esteem." "That's right. This is how it achieves its purpose of controlling you," Wu Yuming said. "Unknowingly it disintegrates your will." "Then what should I do?" Ling Wu said in shock. I don't want to become an addict and a degenerate. Direct resistance won't work." Wu Yuming said, "It's just like you're a small boat, and the evil spirit is a surging river. It's simply a pipe dream for you to sail against the current. The only way is to go downstream." "Then isn't that degeneration and loss?" Ling Wu said. "Not only do you have to go downstream, you also have to flow faster than the river. You have to surpass its speed." Wu Yuming said, "Now you'll feel incomparable satisfaction and happiness. This feeling will last for a few months. After that, you'll fall into an extreme emptiness. You'll desperately chase after strength to fill yourself up so as to achieve satisfaction once again. However, we can't give it the chance to feel empty. We'll desperately chase after it, desperately satisfy it, and exceed the energy required by a second-grade evil spirit. This way, you'll gradually become numb and completely liberated. Then you can do the same too." Ling Wu said. I can't. Dongfang Bingling can't do it too. We're first-grade evil spirits and can control and suppress our will at any time." Wu Yuming said, "You may not know this, but the one instructing Dongfang Bingling to do anything is no longer her own. It's completely the will of the evil spirit. The evil spirit has suppressed all of Dongfang Bingling's will. Do you know what will happen if you relax a little? Dongfang Bingling will commit suicide." Ling Wu said. "That's right. Dongfang Bingling will commit suicide." Wu Yuming said. "Therefore, I've heard that when Dongfang Bingling had just turned into a devil, she had already decided on a duel with Yang Dingtian. I've thought about it carefully. From Dongfang Bingling's standpoint, this kind of duel is unnecessary. Therefore, I suspect that this duel is a trap that Dongfang Bingling has set for herself. She wants Yang Dingtian to kill her. During the duel, The will that she had accumulated for several years will erupt in an instant. After that, she'll lose the duel and die under Yang Dingtian's sword? Ling Wu said. Wu Yuming said, this is merely my guess. Because no matter how I think about it, there's no need for her to duel with Yang Dingtian. As a matter of fact, at that time, she no longer had any desire to battle with Yang Dingtian. And after turning into a devil, there's even less desire. Why do you say that after turning into a devil, she no longer has any desire to battle with Yang Dingtian? Ling Wu asked doubtfully. Firstly, in the mission of evil ways, I'm the only chess piece that can deal with Yang Dingtian. Wu Yuming said. Li Ming also has a certain desire to battle. Because he loves Dongfang Bingling deeply, he's jealous of Yang Dingtian. Only Dongfang Bingling herself, who didn't have any desire to battle at that time, proposed a duel. Therefore, the only explanation is that she wants Yang Dingtian to kill her and free herself from being a first-grade evil spirit. But a person who possesses an evil spirit can't die, Ling Wu said. Others might not be able to kill her, but Yang Dingtian might be able to do it, Wu Yuming said. Ling Wu said, then does Yang Dingtian know about this matter? Wu Yuming said, he shouldn't know. He doesn't want me to be so meticulous. Ling Wu said, then I want to tell him. Wu Yuming said, but if you tell him, he might make a mistake in the duel and lose his life. Of course, all of this is up to your will. If you want to tell him, you can tell him at any time. Ling Wu immediately sank into contemplation. All right, let's go, Wu Yuming said. Where are we going? Ling Wu asked. Wu Yuming said with a smile, let's go and disband the southern mansion first, and let the people from the netherworld sea return. After that, I'll bring you to the ends of the earth, and let you become stronger in the shortest amount of time. I'll let you defeat the devouring desire of a second-grade evil spirit, and break free from its control. How long will it take? Ling Wu asked. Who knows? Maybe a few years, maybe even longer, Wu Yuming said. Ling Wu said, but you have your own things to do. Don't tell me that you'll accompany me and help me become stronger for the next few years? Wu Yuming said, in any case, I can't find any goal in life now. You're also my only family member. I have to find something to do and can't read the newspaper every day. Moreover, the Chaos Times has become an issue every 7 days. I'm about to finish reading all the newspapers that I've saved up previously. Then, under Ling Wu's somewhat incomprehensible gaze, Wu Yuming walked out of the inn and directly entered the southern mansion. Everyone in the southern mansion saw Wu Yuming appear. They were completely stunned in an instant. Then it was boundless ecstasy. At this moment, other than the people from the Sea of Hades, those who were stationed in the southern mansion were the most loyal to the evil ways. Or, it could be said that they were already at the end of their rope. For example, the undying cockroach Shimanju, Qiu Ruhan, and Yang Zheng were all hiding in the southern mansion. If there were still people who hoped for Wu Yuming to return safely, it would be them. However, they were different from Ling Wu. They only treated Wu Yuming as their backing and hoped for revenge. Especially Shimanju. The moment he saw Wu Yuming, his entire body practically trembled, and he knelt on the ground. After Wu Yuming was defeated, Shimanju and the others were practically in complete despair. Now Wu Yuming had returned. Moreover, she seemed to have become even more profound and unfathomable. How could they not be wild with joy? Sect Master is back. This subordinate pays his respects to Sect Master. Shimanju and the others kowtowed with all their might. Instantly, their entire body was filled with the desire for battle. Wu Yuming said, I'm here to tell you that from today onwards, the southern mansion is disbanded. Just treat me as if I don't exist. Shimanju was stunned and said in disbelief, Could it be that Sect Master wants to give up? I'm not some Sect Master. Wu Yuming said, I'm just a member of the evil ways, and one of the nominal foster sons of the Demon King Wentian. Who cares? Shimanju said, the winner takes all. As long as you win, you'll be the master of the Tiando League. I feel that Yang Dingtian's victory over you is purely coincidental. No matter which aspect you look at, he's far from being your opponent. We still have a huge chance of winning. Say no more. Wu Yuming said. From today onwards, the southern mansion is no more. You can do as you please. Qiu Ruhan said in a cold voice. Sect Master, could it be that you've been scared out of your wits by that despicable Yang Dingtian? Could it be that you're going to be a coward and allow Yang Dingtian to be so arrogant? Wu Yuming looked at her and said, Yes, from today onwards, I'll avoid Yang Dingtian. Wherever he is, I'll immediately run 1,000 miles away. Then, Wu Yuming directly flashed and disappeared. Then what should we do? Wait for Yang Dingtian to come and slaughter us? Shimanju said loudly. Wu Yuming's voice came from afar. If Princess Mudan is willing to accept you, you can go and submit to her. Then he completely disappeared, leaving behind a completely stunned Qiu Ruhan and Shimanju. Even if they were to die, they couldn't imagine why Wu Yuming would be so depressed after a single defeat. He even said that he would avoid Yang Dingtian. Of course, they didn't know that Wu Yuming was like a program. His final fate was written in the code. Either he killed Yang Dingtian and obtained a new life, or he died. Moreover, he was only allowed one chance, because this was to test the authenticity of his fate. Wu Yuming's defeat proved his fate. He was supposed to die, but someone didn't let him die. Then, if he encountered Yang Dingtian again, it would be like a program encountering a fatal bug. If he encountered someone he was supposed to never meet again, he could only avoid him. Just like that, a few hours later, shocking news came from Zhongjing. The southern mansion was disbanded, the Sea of Hades was withdrawn, and all related personnel were dismissed. Immediately, everyone finally confirmed that Wu Yuming's era was over. As for those central continent leaders who were watching in the dark and still had hope, their final hope was also cut off. Wu Yuming had been walking in this world for countless years. In order to defeat God's spokesperson, he had been walking in this world with the identity of an invisible person for close to 100 years, constantly making himself stronger. Therefore, he was only half a step away from becoming a half-sage previously. Therefore, his understanding of this world had far surpassed Dongfang Minmi. He couldn't be more familiar with which place would give birth to mystic flames, and which place would have secret realms. He wanted to bring Ling Wu to devour all the mystic flames he knew of, and to train in all the secret realms he knew of. He wanted Ling Wu to walk in front of the second great evil spirit, and help her defeat the second great evil spirit. In any case, he had nothing else to do. Wu Yuming met Dongfang Bingling on the sea after leaving the central continent. Where are you going? Dongfang Bingling asked. To bring Ling Wu to cultivate. Wu Yuming said. But you should complete your mission. Dongfang Bingling said. The world exterminating army is about to descend, but they still lack a human commander. You should find a suitable candidate and bestow your second-grade evil spirits, so that they can become the backbone of the world exterminating army in the future. You must know that the Temple of Blood and Pleasure Palace are already half disintegrated. Wu Yuming said, I know, but I don't want to do this because this isn't my mission. Princess Mudan said, You're the adopted son of His Majesty the Demon King, and not Dongfang Bingling. We don't want to use the will of the evil spirits to suppress your soul directly. Don't force us to deal with you like how we dealt with Dongfang Bingling. Wu Yuming said, The reason why I tried my best to defeat Yang Dingtian was so that I could be reborn and become a real person. If you want to suppress my will like how you dealt with Dongfang Bingling, then do as you please. Princess Mudan said, Then are you going to ignore His Majesty the Demon King's orders? Wu Yuming said, He's my everything, my sky and my earth. I've been carrying out his orders all my life, and he only gave me one order, which was to defeat Yang Dingtian and challenge fate. It's just that I failed, and you didn't let me die. Other missions are none of my business. Princess Mudan stared coldly at Wu Yuming for a long while. Then, she suddenly flapped her wings of light and flew towards the direction of the Dongli grassland in the northwest. One of the adopted sons that His Majesty the Demon King placed in the primal chaos world had already been crippled. The remaining one couldn't be crippled anymore. Wu Yuming's only mission was to defeat Yang Dingtian, and take control of the Tiando League. He failed. Dongli's mission was to conquer the Naga race and make all the Naga race fall in love with him. Then, he would give birth to a demigod race and become the absolute ally of the evil ways. Therefore, Princess Mu Dan wanted to urge Dongli to speed up the pace of conquering the Naga race. Furthermore, she had already found the key to make the Naga race fall in love with him. Looking at Bing Ling's departing figure, Ling Wu asked, "Where is she going?" "To the Dongli grassland," Wu Yuming said. Ling Wu asked, "Why is she going to the Dongli grassland?" "She wants to urge Dongli to speed up the pace of conquering Queen Hai Xan," Wu Yuming said. "In this world, only Yang Dingtian has successfully impregnated a demonic fox. And only Yang Dingtian is able to make the Naga race fall in love with him. In the past, no one knew why. However, after the battle between Yang Dingtian and I, an extremely small number of people saw the key." "What key?" Ling Wu asked. "The darkness profound flame is the key to making the Naga race fall in love with him," Wu Yuming said. "Yang Dingtian possessed a higher grade darkness profound flame. That was why he was able to defeat me in an instant." Queen Hai Xan had indeed suspected that the darkness profound flame could make the Naga race fall in love with him. However, I have the darkness profound flame. Therefore, she had secretly met me before. However, she realized that I was unable to make her fall in love with him. Therefore, she and Dongli gave up on this route. Actually, this route is correct. The reason why I am unable to make Queen Hai Xan fall in love with him is because I am not a complete man. You have also discovered this point by accident a few days ago. Ling Wu's face immediately turned red. She said gently, "Big brother Wu, no matter how you are in the eyes of others, you will always be in my heart. In my heart, you will always be the best man." Wu Yuming looked at Ling Wu with a gaze that was filled with gentleness and pity. He smiled slightly. Mu Dan also knows about this point. Then, does she know how to know about the darkness profound flame? Ling Wu asked. She definitely doesn't know about the details. Wu Yuming said, however, for a top expert, this kind of thing can be easily seen through. Yin Shimin was once poisoned by the darkness crystal. Yang Dingtian saved her. As a result, he obtained the darkness profound flame. With a little speculation, one can come to a conclusion. Then, is Dongli also able to create the darkness profound flame and make Queen Hai Xan fall in love with him? Ling Wu asked. Perhaps, Wu Yuming said. Then what should we do? Wouldn't Queen Hai Xan be in danger and fall into Dongli's demonic clutches? Ling Wu said. Wu Yuming said. Perhaps, Dongli would fall into Hai Xan's demonic clutches. Hai Xan has always wanted to obtain a man who can make her fall in love with him. However, Yang Dingtian is too dangerous and too hard to control. Therefore, she has never officially made a move. Furthermore, she wanted to borrow my hand to get rid of Yang Dingtian the last time. Ling Wu said. Then do we need to inform Yang Dingtian immediately? Wu Yuming said. You decide. If you want to inform him, then go ahead and inform him. As for me, I don't have this motivation. Although I won't kill him and avoid him, I also don't have this motivation to help him. Because I don't care if Hai Xan has an illicit relationship with Dongli and gives birth to a descendant. Ling Wu was stunned for a moment. She was thinking in her heart whether she should inform Yang Dingtian about this matter. Chapter 729. At this moment, the central capital was extremely busy. Yang Dingtian should have left the Cloud Heaven City and returned to the central capital. But before Yao Rao's matter was settled, he couldn't leave. Therefore, this was the longest time that Yang Dingtian had ever spent with his family. Finally, his eldest son, Yang Li, was more or less close to his father. Yang Li was already over 3 years old and was considered a big child. His personality and Duge Fengwu's personality were becoming more and more obvious. He was very domineering, but also very magnanimous. Yang Yi was almost 1.5 years old, but he didn't look much younger than Yang Li. Furthermore, he was astonishingly beautiful. He didn't speak much, but his enunciation was very clear. When he answered questions, he was very accurate. Sometimes his answers even shocked Yang Dingtian. According to Yao Rao, Yang Yi had never formally learned how to speak. When the adults spoke, he would listen at the side, and then open his mouth to learn. When he could speak correctly, he would then speak. Although Yang Qin was slightly older than him, she still couldn't speak fluently. She spoke in a childish voice. Only daddy, mommy, grandma, and big brother could speak more clearly. Because she was the only girl among the babies, she received the most doting. Yang Dingtian also liked this baby very much. It looked like a doll, and was soft and chubby when he held it in his hands. It was unexpectedly well-behaved and rarely cried. It was born with a natural fondness for smiling. Even when it wasn't smiling, its eyes and mouth would curve as if it was smiling. Therefore, although Yang Dingtian spent most of his time with the babies, he was basically holding Yang Qin in his hands. When he was telling stories, Yang Dingtian widened his eyes and looked at him with admiration. Moreover, he would ask questions from time to time. This child seemed to be very eager to get Yang Dingtian's attention and affirmation. As for him, Yang Dingtian didn't hesitate to praise him. Yang Li, on the other hand, was moving around and twisting around, pretending not to listen carefully. In fact, he heard every word clearly. In short, this child was very rebellious. As for Yang Yi, he was the most serious child. He sat on the ground and sat very straight. He listened quietly and even thought. However, he was only a little over a year old. As for baby Yang Qin, she couldn't understand what her father was saying at all. She just lay in her father's arms and stared at her father's mouth that kept opening and closing. She found it very amusing. Then when others laughed, she also laughed. His eldest daughter, Yang Ning, was almost 9 years old and no longer listened to stories. She had already requested to spend some time alone with Yang Dingtian. First, she would practice her swordsmanship in front of Yang Dingtian, so that he could give her pointers. After the exchange of martial arts, she would also exchange her views on current affairs with Yang Dingtian. In short, she wanted to prove to Yang Dingtian that she had grown up. Last night, Yang Dingtian finally told Yin Yan, Ning Ro and Mu Liani that they should take this opportunity to have a few more babies in the valley. Ning Ro and Mu Liani were both very happy. As for Yin Yan, she said that Yang Li was still too young and still needed her mother's love. Yang Dingtian said that Yang Li's rebellious heart was very strong now. She was too dependent on Shimin Yin Yan and wanted to monopolize her. Furthermore, as she grew older, her possessiveness towards Yang Dingtian was also very strong. These days, although she deliberately acted impatient in front of Yang Dingtian, she had never left his side. Furthermore, she tried her best to show off and even pretended to be casual. Therefore, she had to learn how to share, especially maternal love. Therefore, it was time for Yin Yan to give birth to a baby. Then, with joy and longing, Yin Yan worked hard to give birth to a little life in her stomach. At noon, a familiar voice sounded in Yang Dingtian's ears. It was the annoying racist voice. Yang Dingtian, come to the poison strait in the north to meet me. I can't smell you humans. Yang Dingtian was still carrying Yang Qin. After telling the story, he handed the children to his master's wife and wife. Then, he flew to the poison strait in the north of Cloud Sky City alone. Don't get too close to me. Just talk like this. Yao Li immediately reached out to stop Yang Dingtian from getting closer. At this moment, the two of them were more than 100 meters apart. Yang Dingtian couldn't help but frown. She was really a hopeless racist. If you have something to say it quickly, Yang Dingtian said unhappily. You can leave that child behind immediately, but Yara must come with me. Yao Li said, this is my biggest concession. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. Yang Dingtian said, I'm very curious. What are you planning to do with Yarao back to Little Western Paradise? Yao Li said, of course it's to get married and be together forever to give birth to the purest silver fox offspring. Yang Dingtian said, don't you hate humans? Yarao and I had the most intimate relationship. Her body had the smell of me, a human. Why don't you mind? Yao Li's body suddenly twitched. She said coldly, Yang Dingtian monkey, this is the second time you want to throw shit at me. If it happens again, I will be very sorry to you. Don't threaten me. Just answer the question, Yang Dingtian said. Yao Li clenched her fists and said, Then let me ask you a question too. Do you love your wife? I love her very much, Yang Dingtian said. Then if you didn't protect her well, and caused her to be defiled by a beast, would you despise your wife? Yao Li sneered. Yang Dingtian frowned and said, Although I hate your description and analogy, I understand what you mean. I also admire your infatuation and breadth of mind. However, you are mistaken about one thing. Yarao is my woman and my legal wife. We are very much in love. Wrong. Yao Li said sternly. She has been in your human country for too long, and has been corrupted by you. That's why she is lost. As soon as she returns to the little western paradise, she will immediately wake up. She will look down on this relationship, and want nothing more than to wash away every mark you have left on her. Yang Dingtian's mouth twitched slightly. It seems that other than your pride and magnanimity, you have no intelligence. The third time, Yang Dingtian monkey, you threw shit at me for the third time. You have used up all 3 chances. Yao Li said coldly. Yao Li said coldly. If there's a next time, I'll stomp you to death like an ant. The nobility of the silver dragon bloodline cannot be violated. Yang Dingtian originally wanted to say that she was just a bastard, and that it had happened for the 4th time. However, he remembered that Yang Yi baby was also a hybrid between him and Yao Li. How could he bear to say that? Thus, he shut his mouth and didn't say anything. 7 days. Yang Dingtian, you have 7 days to choose, Yao Li said coldly. You can either agree to my request and leave your child behind. I will take Yarao away, and help you defeat the so-called evil ways. Otherwise, I will forcefully take Yarao and your child away. You will get nothing. If you dare to stop me, I will kill you. After saying that, Yao Li disappeared into thin air. Yang Dingtian closed his eyes, and began to think about how to deal with this sick racist. When Yang Dingtian returned to Cloud Sky City, the Jiao Liao was extremely anxious because she didn't know where Yang Dingtian had gone. Furthermore, she had received an extremely urgent report a few hours ago. Sect Master, this is the report we received 8 hours ago. Someone stopped our patrolling winged cavalry and passed it to you. However, we don't know where you went, the Jiao Liao said. Yang Dingtian took it immediately. It was a piece of snow-white silk. The words on it were faint blue, and were written with mystical chi flames. Mu Dan went to the Dongli grassland to help Dongli obtain the darkness mystical flame, in order to achieve his goal of conquering the Snake Queen. Quickly go and stop her. The handwriting was very beautiful and delicate. As for the signature, there was only one word, Wu. It was Ling Wu. This report was given by Ling Wu. Almost instinctively, Yang Dingtian didn't have any doubts about this report. What about the patrolling winged cavalry who received the report? Have you seen it? Yang Dingtian asked. He didn't open it. However, according to the regulations, he was already in the secret pavilion. After receiving the report, he took the initiative to distance himself from all the other patrolling winged cavalry, and didn't have any contact. Therefore, this report only passed through him and me, the Jiao Liao said. Yang Dingtian said, Follow Madame Shimen to the secret pavilion, and wait for the spiritual master to wash away this memory. Including that patrolling winged cavalry, wash away this memory together. Yes, the Jiao Liao said. Then, she quickly locked all the mystic meridians in her body, so that she couldn't speak or write. Madame Shimen came in, carried her, and walked toward the secret pavilion. Actually, Ling Wu couldn't have used such a direct method to transmit this level of information. This involved the top secret of how to conquer the snake race. However, she wasn't Yang Dingtian's subordinate after all. It was already very hard for her to pass this information to Yang Dingtian. It seemed that her second great evil spirit had undergone a transformation after being activated, which made her somewhat afraid to meet Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian shook lightly, and this piece of silk instantly turned into ashes. This piece of information was too important. Yang Dingtian knew very well why he could make the snake race and Yarao go into estrus. It was the darkness mystical flame. Because when Yin Yan had the darkness crystallization in her body and met Yarao for the first time, Yarao was already restless. Even though it hadn't reached the stage of estrus, it was still very budding. From then on, Yang Dingtian knew that the thing that made the snake race and demon fox race go into estrus was the energy of the black hole and the darkness mystical flame. Wu Yuming wasn't a complete man, so she couldn't make the snake race go into estrus. However, not only was Dongli a complete man, he was also a pervert. Once he possessed the darkness mystical flame, he could make Queen Hai Xian go into estrus anytime. Then he could possibly rule the entire snake race. The consequences would be unimaginable. In that case, could Dongli create the darkness mystical flame? The darkness mystical flame was very mysterious. However, once the theory was pointed out, it wouldn't be difficult. Yang Dingtian could create the darkness mystical flame. Wu Yuming could also create the darkness mystical flame. Naturally, Dongli could also create it. As long as the energy of the mystical flame and the darkness crystal reached a balance, the darkness mystical flame would be born when both parties perished together and couldn't devour each other. Of course, the darkness mystical flame created by Dongli might be very weak. It was far from being comparable to Wu Yuming's and Yang Dingtian's. However, so what? This thing wasn't used for battle. It was used to make the snake race go into estrus. Just a little of it would do. He had to stop it. Furthermore, he had to stop it immediately. Once Dongli conquered Queen Hai Xian and the snake race, the consequences would be unimaginable. In order to stop Dongli, Yang Dingtian had to resort to unscrupulous means. If necessary, he wouldn't hesitate to betray himself and seduce Queen Hai Xian. He wanted to impregnate Hai Xian before Dongli did. After making the decision, Yang Dingtian didn't even have the time to gather Dongfang Minmi or Dishi Bian to go with him. There was no time at all. He had to deal with Queen Hai Xian before Dongli did. Before leaving, Yang Dingtian met with Yao Rao again. He told her that he had something very important to do, and he had to leave. However, he would be back in 3 to 5 days at most. Yao Rao only said one sentence. "Don't worry, my husband. If Yao Li wants to take me away, I'll have to die. Moreover, you don't have to worry about Yao Li. I have confidence in dealing with Yao Li." Yang Dingtian nodded and kissed her deeply on the lips. Then, he rode on the demon vulture king and flew towards the Dongli grassland at his fastest speed. He had made the decision. In terms of martial strength, he wasn't Dongli's opponent. Therefore, he had to go all the way. He had to take down Hai Xian and cook her thoroughly first. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.